Good day, everybody. Getting a little bit fumbled on myself here. Sounds were a little bit messed up there. I don't know if it was the update on the system. Who knows? I mean, had to get some things straightened out there, I guess, before bringing it on over live. Welcome on in here, everybody, to Spline Design Studios Saturday. I did do some redemptions there. I saw took care of that right away there for you, Torch, I guess, as far as VIP status. For anybody else that wasn't aware, you can totally take your channel points, which is via the little red drop that's below the where you would type in the chat. That is the Twitch channel points, whatever. They're totally separate from the units of fluid that you earn during the live streams. Exclamation point fluids, I guess, for that. Those are totally separate. You can redeem those channel points that are based on all the Twitch point system how you like. Torch had redeemed, I guess, one of those VIP statuses for a month, so you'll have that as well as the sub badge as far as one of the founding members of the channel there, as far as the subs and loyal supporters of the channel. So you've got you're rocking both of those at this point now there, Torch. So with all that being said, just making sure everything is running here smooth. I've got some new information here from Torch, even as I speak. Just getting that set up here. Lots of new items, some things that have been updated and or just replaced and so on. For the Dover International Speedway track build for the NASCAR Racing 2003 season racing simulation. So, hope everybody's doing well. I got a heck of a head cold. You know, it's crazy, just kind of stuffed up here. So if I do tend to either sneeze a lot or sound kind of like just muffled or whatever like that, that's probably why. It just always happens this time of year when it starts to get cold. We've been really struggling, I guess, in the evenings here, I guess, as far as to stay above freezing. So it's like we have a lot of freeze warnings here and stuff like that. So it's yeah, kind of getting rough here. All right, let's getting some things loaded up here. Still, just bear with me a moment. Appreciate the patience. Okay. All right. So, for starters, what I wanted to show is, like I said, again, a lot of new stuff for the Dover track build. Let's bring this on over here. So, I got it loaded up here in Sandbox. I can ensure that. So, the new items here, kind of put them all in here. So, we got a new pit LP, for example. Track I-9 has been redone, I guess, to fix some of the locations of the pit stalls. Torch has taken the initiative, I guess, to go through each pit stall and ensure that everything is where they needs to be. I need to switch this over here real quick here. We're not into the track yet. Let's do this way. There we go. Once we get in the track, and we will be testing out the track in the simulation as we've been throughout this whole thing here. So don't worry about that. So we got some general information here that Torch has given us. So we got some new track mat stuff. Some of the trees have been either replaced or redone. We got the new pit LP, as I mentioned. Pit stalls have been refined as far as gone through each pit stall. So the track I-9 needs to be replaced. I got that all set up. PTF needs to be replaced because of the new items and such, new placements. A lot of the welds, we're going to take a look at that. I pointed that out last week, if we recall, last live stream. Some of the welds didn't necessarily line up, I guess, as far as for the safer. We got some new shadows, fence light maps and stuff like that. We got a new care center map that has shadows on it now, so we're going to check that out. And it's already been tested into a DAT file and confirmed. So we're going to do that on our end just to kind of confirm what Torch has already done. So yeah, we got some new fir trees. Let's start off with those. Let's open this one up just to kind of see what we got going on here. Open this up in 3D Sim Ed. And I don't have the texture in here, obviously, but you can see just the style of it. Now, if we compare that to the original, close this one out. Let's compare it to the original. So I put the backups in here. So here's the original one. There's the original one. So yeah, you can see the right off the bat there. You can see the. It's only pink because I don't have the texture from where I'm trying to open it there. So that's not an issue. I just wanted to look at the change in the model itself. Care center. So I assume all these other trees are probably much the same. Well, some of them got different sizes, I suppose. There we go. So that's the new one. Actually, that's the backup. I'm sorry. That's the backup. And the new one of the same name was this one. So there's the new one. So he's kind of redesigned those. Pretty cool. And again, the pink there or whatever is only because I don't have the texture where I'm trying to open it up here. That's in the track. It should be fine. Care center. I want to check this one out. He's got some shadowing. I know I mentioned this last stream to add some shadowing to where there was a tree, so that the shadow of the tree was on the building. So I want to kind of take a look at this and see how this has been done. Alright, so we got the WinMit 2 open here. So let's go to our folder there. Go right here. Care center. So this is the new one. This is the new texture for it. You can already see right off the bat. We didn't have this on the texture previously. That's pretty cool. And I've got the track open here so we can actually kind of see what that looks like. There's a couple things I want to go over too, I guess, as far as I kind of shared those with Torch right there. But you can see that shadow on this care center is, let's put it over right there. And also, from what I can tell, he's got a TSD down here, it looks like, too. Kind of put that on the ground. So not only on the building, but on here. So that really gives it a lot of depth and detail to really put some placement of that tree next to the building. You know, from looking at that, it doesn't look so flat, for lack of a better way to put it. So that's pretty cool. Just something, those little finer details like that. So you can see he's actually applied it right here. I can already see that now. So he's got that shadow on the ground right here, all built into the texture. So that's pretty cool. So whether you want to do it in the form of a TSD, like we do have some of the other trees, or right into the texture here like that. Now, if we were to look at the original texture, we won't see that in here. So that's obviously been applied brand new. So you got a TSD as well. In fact, we can kind of take a look at that too. I'm going to open up this original file in our track edit folder. So let's go here, Dover, and look for Care Center. Same file. This is the. I take that back. This one's already the. I gotta look at the backup. I'm gonna go ahead and open this up anyway, just so I know that's pointed there. So this is the same file. I need to look at the original one. That's what I wanted to do. Yeah, I'm stepping all over myself here. So let's go to here, backups, and this Care Center. And this is the original texture. So we didn't have that on there, just to kind of show those differences there. So just something as simple as that being applied to the texture to give it a lot more depth, not only in the texture itself, but the actual tree that's next to the building. But you had mentioned there's a TSD with that as well. Let me take a look at that. Let's go into our track surface decal editing view and go to that area. Move my keyboard down here. I don't have the wheel in the way just yet. Make it easier on myself. Okay, so if we navigate over to that in our track surface decal view, zoom in on that. So right in this area, yeah, looks like we do have, I can see already the outline for the TSD. So we do have a TSD in this area as well. That is TSD Tree 05 Shadow. I'm going to take a look at that file. 305 Shadow. Let's look at that. Let's go here. TSD, and I like the way these are named out as far as like all your TSDs are basically named to be very clarified as far as like where those are, what they, you don't have to search for them. So just being able to go into the TSD sections, they should all be down in here, which happens to be this one. And we're going to open this up a minute too and take a look at this one. Take a look at that. I'll have to re-navigate back to that third party. And our Dover build. I should say Torch's Dover build. TSD. Ready? I saw it in there. Where did it go? I'm probably staring right at it too. My eyes are a little bit watery too, I guess, with all this head congestion, so you have to excuse. Where the heck did it go? Grass Island. Hello? There it is. Gotta find it there. So that's what that shadow looks like, as far as for that TSD. And again, we're using that magenta as opposed to using it as a TI. So that's reducing the overall file size. The fact that you've been able to get it this way without having in that magenta bleed, that's actually a pretty that's a sizable feat in itself, because it's tough to get things like this, I guess, to not have that magenta bleed. So just the clarity in the texture itself and how it actually presents itself onto the track here. So I still got that highlighted, that TSD. You can't even see no magenta bleed whatsoever from any distance. Yeah, so I can see now by looking at this, you can see where the TSD is, where it is in the texture. You can't even tell that transition though. That's even tougher to do. So the fact that it looks like you even got something on top here, I didn't notice that in the texture. It's little details like that that just makes everything just kind of really blend in, and just like it belongs where you put it. Yeah, so that highlight here, this box here, is the actual TSD, which would be on this asphalt. The concrete part is going to be in the texture as well as on the wall. And then there's, I didn't see in this, is that in the texture here, I guess, as far as on this part? I'll have to look at that again, just to kind of clarify. I want to see what's going on with that. Let's open that up again. So let's open up the care center, just to see here. Because as we know, we can't float TSDs. TSDs are more or less on the ground. Yeah, you can see it right there. So the fact that I'd imagine you would have your wire for your model to tell where that needs to go. That you can really speak that. So if I had the wire, I guess I'd be able to look at there, which I don't need. I'm just saying, if you had that, that's use that to your advantage as far as like where that's mapped, and be able to put those finer details like that, I guess, where it needs to go. Mess with this type of graphic enough. I should be able to get it right. Yeah. I mean, it does take practice, as far as to get, the things with transparency, I guess, just right. Yeah. Definitely speaks volumes, I guess, as far as not only to make it look good, but to actually optimize and not getting to that rut of constantly use a TI to get that transparency in there. That's not always necessary. Usually that should be the last resort as far as applying a TI, if you're not able to get that that nice soft edge or whatever, so where you're not getting any bleed of texture, as far as the mask around the texture you're actually trying to present on the model. Then and only then you should consider that if you're getting that bleed, or if it's just not presenting itself properly on the model. So yeah, getting back over here, some of the newer trees. We got the new shadows. I think we already showed those last week, so not much of a difference there. Over here, we got some new shadows. There's the new trees with the texture applied to it that we saw in just previously. So these have been updated. So we got some different sized ones in here too. We got this one, a little smaller one here. This shadow could probably be updated a little bit, but I like the way this one's more under the tree. So Torch, I think you had mentioned as far as like being able to get a shadow actually cast on the wall in that area of the casino here. That would add, just like the care center, that would really pop, make it pop. It's add that detail. Same as over here. So I'd be looking forward to, man, look at the depth in this thing though. Holy crap. I know we've looked at this before, but it's like just those little details like that. So depending on, you know, if you were to put cameras in different positions here, you would have all this detail. I mean, it's still relatively 3D, but it's still low poly enough to where it's not going to be super intensive there. No lag. That's always a huge plus. So we got some new shadows here, I'm noticing, for the bridge shadows here. I did mention per last week adding some shadows to the actual wall based on the bridge shadow. So that's been applied. Another thing I really want to get looking into is how these seams for the safer walls actually have been refined. Yeah, you rarely use TIs. Yeah, and that should be the approach you should take. Never should use a TI unless you absolutely have to. And in some cases you will have to. I'm not saying you should ever use them. Just like that should be a last resort. I guess it's applying a transparency, I guess, to a model. So you got fence shadows as well. I guess. So you're talking about, so back here. I guess I never paid attention to that, honestly. So we got new fence shadows back here. That's pretty neat. And we do get a new shadow here, it appears, for this bridge. So we got the shadows that are showing up on the wall. That just adds so much more detail and depth, I guess, to that. The only thing that I'm noticing is it's not on the foam. That's about the only thing. Yeah, so it kind of has that break in there as far as not being on the foam. That could probably be easily done as well. Not criticizing it at all, but it's still, you can definitely tell the difference there. But from a distance there, it's really kind of eye-catching as far as like it not being presented on the foam. And much the same thing, you could apply that to the texture of the foam in that area if you wanted to. But even as it stands right there, it still looks really good. So yeah, these fence shadows we got all the way around here. I'll be perfectly honest, I didn't really pay attention to whether or not these were here or not, but the fact that they are at this point, it obviously adds quite a bit to it just by looking at it. It really gives you a sense of what direction the sun's coming from too. So the sun more than likely would be coming from that end of the track over here, when you consider the way the shadows are casted here. Yeah, here's all the... So these weren't here before. I guess, again, I'm going to be a play ignorant. Did not notice that before, but holy crap, that makes a whole lot of difference there. Yep. So, yeah, the fact that you can tell that the sun would be coming from this direction over here, and it would be relatively high, not real high, but if it was lower, you would have a lot longer shadow. So it would be coming roughly from like this perspective. So it would be shining, you know, the way the shadows are casted, you can definitely, pretty neat. The other thing I want to look at too is these seams for the safer. So right off the bat here, I can kind of already tell. And you took some of what I was suggesting there as far as like sometimes you have to finagle, I guess, with these seams. You're going to have like a seam next to a seam. Just the way the texture mapping, you know, the skewing, I guess, of the texture from one track segment to the next. Sometimes you'll end up with this, and that's not a big deal. In fact, in reality, they will do this, I guess, because it's never going to be a perfect length of safer in different sections of the track because of the design of the track. They're never going to fall, I guess, like that same length, I guess, as far as the 8-foot or whatever they happen to be. So you're going to end up having pieces in there like that. But to have these seams on there to actually show you've got these sections in there, that's so much better. It gives it that, so look at the back side. See, it's not so much on the back side, but that's, you know, neither here nor there. I mean, if you put it on the back side, it gives it even more. you know, to have the same skewing on both the front and the back side. So if you, again, if you were to put a camera here, this is what I always take into consideration. If you wanted to put like a speed shot on the wall here, you would actually see that detail on the back side as well. That's usually the approach I usually take to it. But that in itself right there, just looking at that from the front side, that's definitely so much better. And I like how you've got the dark side and the light side, because you would have the sun shining on the top and not so much on the on this side. So it's gonna be more defined, you know, highlighted on the top seam than it would on that side. That's some really finite detail there. And that's just one texture. So let's look at these other ones here. Yep, so that one's lining up pretty good. I noticed this texture in here as far as for the jegs. Okay. Yep, so there's a seam there. Pretty cool. Let's look at the back side. Yeah, so you don't have it on the back side, so I'm assuming the texture set sizes or the way the textures are on the back side aren't necessarily the same. Not a big deal, really. But, you know, again, just considering the fact if you were to put a camera here and to have that seam, you know, in that same spot as it is on the front, you know, on the track side, yeah. But that looks really good. That already looks 100%. I know these were in here. I noticed that in the track mat stuff as far as these lined up. So it looks like he's removed the seam in there. He's got one right here. And again, you got that same idea as far as like having that highlighted on the top side. That's really cool. Yep. Digging that. Yeah, so if you do, that's kind of what I was trying to explain last week, I guess, as far as how sometimes you might end up with having a seam next to a seam in close proximity, and that's not uncommon. I mean, they do that in actuality. We got a little bit of a flaw right there next to this monster one. Got a double seam here. And again, just those finer details. Oh, you adjusted the barrels? I guess I missed that. I'm sorry. Which barrels? As far as these barrels, I don't even remember where I was at. I kind of missed that one there. It took 3 days to adjust the... Oh, yeah. It does take a little bit of time. Also added fence shadow to the inside fence. Nice. Oh, in turn 2? Okay, so you fixed some barrels over there. Let's go back over to turn 2. Because I need to check out some of the seams over there as well. So the barrels in turn 2, which would be outside of here. So these barrels. Oh yeah, because I had mentioned as far as like, I gotcha. Yep. Cool. Yep. So that covers that end up a little bit better. Yep. So if the cars hit that, because they're going in this direction. Yep. So if they were to slide off the track or whatever and slam into that, we don't want them hitting the end of that wall. Yep. But check some of the seams over on this end here too. Right, they were clipping into the wall too, right? I do remember that. Yep, so again here, you got a little bit of spacing in here. We'll have to look at that in the sim itself or whatever to see how they actually... Because you gotta compensate for that breathe that the geometry likes to do there. Sometimes you do have to either suck these in a little bit more or pull them out a little bit to make them line up properly. Now we looked at all these walls here last week, as far as like how all the foam or whatever is actually tucked in behind the safer, and they're not protruding out past that. So that's already an improvement. That still even proves that. But yeah, not uncommon or whatever for this to take quite a bit of time, I guess, to go through each of these seams, especially when you got a lot of logos on the walls. In fact, let me slow this down just a tad. A little more. There we go. So I'm going to slow that up a little. Yeah, so you still got, you know, just a couple of seams here or whatever that are kind of... This is not terrible. I mean, you still got the main seam there lined up, but this will happen sometimes too from when you move from one segment to the next as far as how you have to set that texture skewing whatever from one segment to the next. So I assume there's probably a segment break right here. as far as either, you know, the wall texture seg or just the track segment itself. And that'll happen a lot. I mean, it's irritating, but I can notice a seam here. That looks good. And again, what I'm going to look at, as far as from edge of one seam to the next, that's a full section right there. Per innate. So you got the jegs one over here. Yep, so you got a seam right there. Looks good. Very nice. So yeah, so again, I always like to kind of pan out here so you can see one seam here, one seam there, so that would be like a full segment. Those generally tend to be like, I forgot what the actual length of those were. I want to say they were 8 foot. I could be wrong. I'd have to check my specs here again, but they're pretty long sections. Yeah, so there's a seam there. Again, you did the same thing here with the highlight on the top part as opposed to that side. Really add some definition there because you're going to have a little bit more, I don't know if you want to say clarity, I guess, on the top seam weld as opposed to the track side one here. Looks really good. And again, you know, like I was mentioning on the other end, if you wanted to put a camera here, if you've got that seams lining up the same way, it's just a matter of lining up the texture on the backside the same setting that you would have on the for your logo on the other side. So like if you've got it set to, you know, a particular skew on this, you want to do the same thing for the safer on the backside. So all those seams will line up. That's just a part of that process anyway. So I don't remember if this one had, yep, so this one here, got that going through there. So let's pan out here. Alright, so you got, let me see, you got a seam here and a seam right there. So that's a full section. And then on the other side, there would be a seam here. There should be a seam like right around in there. Yep. Maybe a little bit longer, but that's, let me see here. I got one here and right there. Yep, so there. Right through the 5 there. Pretty cool. Might be a little bit tough to see it. I know that. I can see it on my end, but see that there it is right there through the 5 and through here in the D. So that would be a full segment there. This one, that's pretty cool. So you got highlight there. Seam right through the allied steel. So again, if we pan this out, there would be another seam right there. Yeah, so I don't know, like on the black, it's kind of hit or miss in that. To me, you can go either way with this. You can add on darker textures like this. I tend to usually like to, so that seam will actually show a lot more. Add probably the same type of coloring, I guess, on that. That way it's just got a nice solid seam, I guess, all the way through. And I know what you were trying to do, and I totally get that as far as like to have more of a highlight on the top side, but to add a little bit more definition, I guess, to that seam right there, because it kind of takes away from it, I guess, when you can see more of the top and not the one, and only the darker ones, the darker logos. So like these types here, the way you done that, that's pretty cool, because you can see both. That's pretty neat. Lots of time. You can tell lots of time has been taken out of this. So even on the turns, got that one here on this end. There should be one roughly right there. Yep. And again, you got another one. You got that doubleization, for lack of a better way to put it. That'll happen a lot. Like I said, it's very annoying and frustrating. It's like, yeah, you got a couple of them here. I mean, you still got this solid seam right here, so that's just it just takes away. Whoa, crap! I didn't mean to do that. Hate when I do that. Get out of there. I went into driving mode instead of slew. Okay, so we got anything going on here? Let's see. Well, we're over here. Yep, so you got that seam there. This looks really good. I like how that is. So even something like that, or, you know, something on your darker ones. I mean, you got a lot of different things that you tried out with running the seams through the darker items. Yeah, I like this a lot as far as how that is. There's a seam in it, right? I mean, I think it was a little bit tougher to see as far as the Allied one. Yeah, let's go back over there. I don't doubt that there probably is, but it's kind of tough to see it because it's a little bit darker. Have any of these been updated here too? Let's see. I haven't really paid attention to any of these. Looks like some of these have been updated as well. You know, I'm just kind of taking it all in right now. Cool. Digging it. Yeah, let's go back to that Allied one here. So Allied, we got the monster there. The general tire. We saw that on the other end there as far as how those seams were. Whoops. Yep. I really like how this one's done. So that, yeah, this is really cool here as far as how we got that. That's just on the other end of the track here for the general tire. Let's see, for the Monster Energy, same thing as you did like for the Dover logo. The Allied one, we're going to go back to the Allied one here, which is right over here. Yeah, so you got this one here. Yeah, see, like this one looks really good as far as on the Allied there. Let's see what we got here. So we had, it's going through the L. Yeah, so this looks pretty good. Where was I looking at before though? Yeah, so this one here, it should have a seam. This one doesn't really show up as much. So when you look at that in comparison, that's what I was. So between this one and that one there, see how much more defined that one is? Yeah. So maybe just some fine tuning, I guess, to that there. So from this L all the way over to here, for example. Oh, so yeah, that's what I kind of figured you must have done that. I was checking the ones on the front stretch there. Oh, top needs more adjustments. That shouldn't be a seam right there. Okay, well, in any case, there would be an adjustment either to the texture or just the seams. Gotcha. And that could be just as simple, if there's not supposed to be a seam here, you could probably scale back where this ends on the texture. Not the texture size, but the texture seg. You can probably scale back when this ends. Because obviously, when you're considering that, that's probably a good mention here. So when you're applying your logos to your walls, you're considering the direction of the track. So this would be your start of a texture seg, and then it would end down in there. So if that's one segment, for example, I'm not assuming that it is. If you got one segment in here, this would start here and then end at, say, 50 meters down. If you scaled that back as far as where it ends, you could easily fix that problem. Yeah, there's a whole thing. We got a whole. I need to refine that video too that I got. That's going all the way back to the SPP video channel on YouTube, as far as applying logos, I guess, to your walls. And it's really this the simple part of it is when you're considering putting your textures on there and setting your textures texture sets on the wall. Number one, you should take in consideration if it's going to be split between two different track segments, because if it is, then you have to carry them values over from the previous segment over to the next segment on your texture set size, as far as on your facet, be it the left walls in this case. And it's always taking into consideration the direction of the track, as far as like where it starts, where it ends, where it starts, where it ends. And you can always scale that back or make it longer to show less or more of the texture on the wall. So, all right. Yeah, so far there's just a little bit more fine tuning, like these double seams here on the top wall, but for the most part, Pretty damn cool. So you said you did some fence shadowing on the interior fencing here too. So I assume all this here has been added. Again, I'll have to play ignorance on it. I did not notice if that was in there before. That looks pretty good. What about let's go on over here. Some more fencing that I know that was in here. We had, okay, so not so much on this here, but that would look really cool too, I guess, to be able to do that. You know, add some shadowing, I guess, to this fencing here, which is all a model. As we remember, all these fencing over here is that's all 3D modeled as opposed to geometry. So to add some shadowing to that fencing, that would be, holy crap. Really be getting some detail in that. And whether the approach I would probably take to adding some shadowing to that, if you were to go that direction, would be to put that into a model, much the same as the fence, to follow that geometry of the track, and then to make it to where it can be turned off via the population switch. So that would be totally separate, I guess, from the light maps that are built into the track map. Yeah. Pretty cool stuff, man. Something else I did notice as I was panning around here, I didn't notice it before. And I don't know if that just presented itself up till now, but I noticed you can tell the brake or where that transitions from the model. In fact, let me go ahead and highlight that. Let's go to object. Let's select that. So I'm going to take a look at this a little closer. So I don't know if is that in the form of a TSD here for all this business here, because you can see the actual model. I still got that TSDs highlighted too, but that's okay. What I noticed here is you can see the break in here, I guess, for where the geometric line is, which is right there, and then where the TSD or the model for another texture, how they overlap here. So the only thing I'm suggesting is that this would have to be shaved off here so that it looks like it fits there. I guess I kind of noticed that. I didn't know if that was there before, but could probably is that a TSD? Let me see here. Let me check this out real quick. So if you go here, or is that just part of the model? Yeah, so you can really see it from here too, as far as where that break is between the geometric and the model. You know, if it is either a TSD or just a model. Let's see here. So if we go, it's not a TSD. Let's go to geometry real quick. Okay. So you do have a line here. Okay. I think I get what you got here. Let me see. I'm just gonna play around with this a little bit. See, it might even be just as much as doing this, or adjusting where that hard break is there. Because having it like this, you can actually see that break, and that's like it really sticks out, in my opinion. Yeah, that's the only thing that other than that, as far as the coloring of it, doesn't look bad at all. That was just something I noticed anyway. And I feel, has this been refined too? I know I probably keep asking this about this little island here. But it always seems like every time I look at it, it seems more refined between this one here and this one here. I think that's pretty cool. I think those are in the form of TSDs if I remember correctly. Let's go to track surface decal. Whoops. Gotta get in the right mode here. There we go. Yeah, so that's a TSD. And this is a TSD, I believe. Actually, that might be a model. Let's go to object. You got that in a TSD, or is that a not seeing the boundary box for it? That's definitely TSD. That's a TSD. So this is either a TSD or a model. I didn't notice you got two. There's two different. That's pretty neat. Two different landing pads, I guess, for helicopters. I assume that's the way they got it in reality. 'Cause, 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 Relocated that one. Which one was relocated as far as these two islands? Yeah, they either look like they've been refined or just moved. That's what I noticed here, because like every time I come in here, I think I mention those, I guess, as far as how that. But I think it's a good thing, because I know they have these helipads. I didn't realize they had two here. I guess for that anyway. All right, what else did we have? We go into general info. A lot of the other stuff I think is within the. You have to check it out in the sim itself, as far as the pit stall locations. Yeah, obviously the pit LP0 has been redone. I was noticing it had made mention, I guess, as far as that being too close to the other two, as far as the min and the max. Kind of spread those out a little bit so that we don't have any potential AI crashes inadvertently. So we'll take a look at that in the sim. Yeah, you've got in here so some items in the infield area, turn 3 and 4, have been relocated. Okay. That's probably what you were mentioning there. That would be the turn 3-4 in right here. So some of these items have been, I assume that's among those. The garage and the haulers, just about everything in that section. Gotcha. I'll take your word on that. From what I'm seeing here, that looks pretty good. So even looking at it from this way, let's click off of that. Let's actually go back into here real quick. Object. Click out of that. Go back to geometry. Yeah. So far the only thing that I see, and I mentioned, whether or not you go to that length and whatever to add some shadow to that fence line. You already add all that shadowing to that fence line. It can get out of hand sometimes, as far as like it's like, well, I already applied it to that. If you go to that extent, I would probably have it, because I assume that these these light maps, I guess, for the shadowing here, that's all geometric. You know, as far as in the track map. In fact, we're going to take a look at that real quick. So you probably have, for example, this fence here. Let's take a look. If we go into, whoops, light map. Okay, not in that one, so we'll go to the right. Yeah, so there's your shadow fence wall. So it starts off here and it goes towards the wall. So it stops. There's your break there, I guess, for that geometric line. So yeah, you've got these in light maps, which can be turned off via the graphic settings. You know, as far as like what type of shadows show in that regard, in the game itself, as far as those settings, or you can have shadowing, you know, be it the form of ambient occlusion that has a population switch. You can have it that way as well. So like these, I don't know if you've got these set up that way or not for that, but you could have a population switch in there so that they can be turned off, for example. You don't have to, but it's like you can build it into that option. And that could be what could be done with the fence shadow textures if you went that route. And now that I think of it, let me check out something else here. Let's go. I'm going to go over to the shack here. Let me speed this up a little bit. There we go. Yeah, so we redid that in the previous stream. That tower, just to kind of reduce some of the heaviness of that object. This one here as well. Yeah, this shadow here, I never did really look at this from last week. This has all been redone. If you remember, the lead segment here had to be redone, and the little piece there had been reapplied here to accommodate that opening here. Now I assume this is not a pit stall. I assume there wouldn't be an actual pit stall here, so it would actually start on that side. It just seems to me, and it could be just me, and I would have to actually see the actual layout of the pit road, that this line is off. It should be outlining, I guess, this opening here a little bit more as well. And that could be the way it actually is. If it is actually the way it is, then I would leave it alone. It just seems off. Because in most cases, the way these openings in the wall is, you'll have lines that are outlining that, and also you have a pit stall near it, is all. That is the way it is. That's kind of weird. So like if you look at this one, for example, you know, you have that victory lane as far as like right in front of that opening, for example. that's generally the way you would see the lines installed there. So is there an actual pit stall in this location? We're going to take a look at this stuff. We'll probably go through each one and we'll actually check them. And much the same thing that I was mentioning last week. So in particular, I can look at this one here. So that would be stall 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That would be the 9th stall as far as the I-9 is concerned. Actually, the 10th stall because we start off with 0. So instead of 1, we start off with 0. So that would be stall 9 as far as the I-9 is concerned. So I could put that on stall 0 and I can actually check that spot. Because theoretically, I don't feel there should be a pit stall here, or a war wagon or whatever. That should not be anywhere near an opening. There should not be, and that's just a final check that you can make to make sure that that's not what's going on. This pit road looks a lot better. It's a lot more refined. I can already tell. No, the fact that they made renovations to the track, I guess back 2009, 2010, so we're talking a better part of almost 10 years now, to add, because for the longest time the track only had like less than 40 stalls, and the fact that NASCAR at the time, prior to making out renovations, they were running 43 cars, and it's just like they always had to share pit stalls, as far as the ones that were running at the tail end, as far as at the rear, the entrance of the pit. So that was one of the main renovations that they made to the track to accommodate all those cars. Now I think, from what I know, I don't know if they still do it, NASCAR doesn't even run barely 38 cars anymore, which is a reduction, which I find kind of strange. It doesn't surprise me, but so it's not a stall, neither one. Extended the last stall concrete, so they run 38 cars. You extended the last stall concrete, okay. So on this, what we're looking at here, so this, you extended this one out to make it a little bit more equal, I'd imagine. This still here, kind of, I don't know if this is how that is in actuality. That kind of bugs me how that goes over top of this line. So this line that's right here, how these kind of overlap. I don't know if that's the way it's supposed to be. Again, if that's the way it is in actuality, that's just kind of a weirdness there. Why do they have those? Usually these lines here are usually outside a pit road. That kind of gives the drivers kind of like a timing, to get slowed down. So if that's where they actually have them, that's kind of weird. Because normally those would be like right outside, and it kind of gives them a countdown to be like 3, 2, oh crap, I need to get down to speed. But I don't know if they just use this line instead. Kind of negates the purpose of having those then, because it's already in pit road. Again, not from working on tracks as much as I have, that's usually the purpose of these countdown lines. It gives you, the drivers, a little bit of a head start, and be like, okay, I'm at that line, I got to be at this speed, so on, as far as my RPMs, my torque. So paired that, I guess, with this hotline. Now that's something else I was going to try and explain a little bit more, because I have in other track builds that we've been involved in, to be able to apply that extension to the pit road, to actually have your as far as like where you're scored, I guess, for speeding or not. So for example, if you were to be in this zone past this yellow line, as long as it's within, not on the racing surface of the apron near pits, for example, you'd want to be scored. So like if you were to say at the last second try to pit fake and get your car, I guess, in this zone on the apron here, you would get, and then shoot back out on the track, you would get actually black flag. So that's one thing that can be applied to this, or whether or not, in fact, we can take a look at that. You would have to apply what's called a pit road overlay, taking advantage of the fact that the sim has the ability to be able to put 2 pit stalls. So you would basically put an active pit road over an overlay, or vice versa, and take advantage of the simulation actually reading the one pit stall that extends it out in conjunction with the actual active pit stall, as far as like, okay, I'm actually on pit road, as opposed to just before it. So let's take a look at these really quick. So you got to apply the appropriate areas in the track here itself, as well as that secondary pit road, I guess, in your track I9. So you would have the pit 0 and the pit 1, for example, to take advantage of these areas that you're defining in your track here. I don't want to get too much into that, I guess, right now, but that's basically just the nutshell of the explanation. So if we go into extended, we can kind of see how this is laid out. And this is somewhat the way it would need to be. More or less what you would want to do with how this would work. You wouldn't want your apron near pits to be this far out. Okay, so you'd want to define it probably more like from this section. So you'd have your apron near pits start here and only go up to that and not through all here. Right? That's going to give more definition. Basically what this apron near pits does is it calls the spotter, I guess, to say, okay, you're on pit road, you know, keep it on whatever, you know, as far as like what the, you know, as far as your talk, that's what that does. Okay, so once you get that cue, that's telling you, if you're getting that cue, that means that you should already be at speed. Now if you're not, this is where it'll basically tell you, you define this all in that pit 1, as far as to say this is where you want the actual pit road to start. Even though you've got the active pit road, as far as the blue, the dark blue is actually it. You know, so it's kind of hard to explain, but it's like without actually applying all the values or whatever. But you want to take advantage of this area. If you put your D long as far as where the pit road actually starts, you currently right now it's probably on this one right here, which would be incorrect. You'd want it out here because you're already committed at this point. So in the pit lane 1, you would set it the start of the pit road on this line and not here. So on the pit lane 0, which would be your active pit road, the start line would be here, but on your pit 1 would be here. So that's what the sim is actually going to read. It's like, okay, I'm on pit road already right here. So if I'm already over speed limit, I'm going to get black flag if I'm already past this line right here. So you can, the way this segment is actually lined up, that's almost perfect. It's a little bit off, but I mean, if it was like dead on to that, that'd be perfect. But you can always set that, regardless of where your track segment is, you can still set that D long up for that. And it's just as simple as setting up a linear guide, get that point in the D long, and be able to apply that to your pit lane 1 section of your I&I. So that's for the entrance. You would do this much the same thing for your pit exit. Again, you wouldn't have it go all the way out here. You would have the area. Apron near pit stop, right where that line would be, as far as where your pit lane end would be. So you'd have this one on the pit lane 1 over in this one, where this would be the pit lane end would stop, and then you would have on your pit lane 0, it would stop here. So it actually, the simulation will actually pick up this zone as like, okay, am I on pit road or not? And if I'm still within this last zone in the pit lane 1, then I can't speed yet until I'm past this, for example. So yeah, this would have to be scaled back. Even if you go, you know, just up to here, that'd be fine, because you're going to define. You just don't need all this. There's no need for that. That's kind of an exaggeration to that there. You only need it as, you know, as close to the end of the actual pit road as possible, as long as it's not too short. So like if this segment where this D line would be short, you would have to redefine that segment so that you at least have that area to where you want to define covered, as far as where that zone should be. And this is perfect. You can definitely end it here, make this install this apron itself past this segment. So all through these segments, it's going to be this apron, and then this over here same as well. So for your entrance, this could all be apron up to this point. Yeah, so up to this segment, you leave this all apron near pits. Everything behind this would be just apron. And that's an easy adjustment there. Just as long as you've got, and again, just to clarify, just as long as you've got that zone to where you want that pit lane to start on your pit lane 1, as far as the overlay, as long as that's completely engulfed, I guess, in the segment, then you're good to go. Because you want that cue to be able to, you know, as a spotter cue, it gets to be able to chime in to say, okay, you know, give a heads up, I guess, to as you're coming into the pits to say like, oh crap, I better make sure I got. You want that cue, and that's plenty big enough of a zone, I guess, to have it from here all the way to that, and not in this zone. There's still plenty enough room. Generally, what you want to do, this much like your lead segment, as long as that segment to where that zone is longer than the front to back length of the vehicle itself, then you're good to go. In this case, you will have that. So like you'll have just up to here for apron your pits and so on. I don't want to beat a dead horse on that, but that's just the general idea, I guess, behind that. Whether or not you apply that aspect to it, I think it's a pretty decent concept to apply, take advantage of that second pit road protocol that you have in the I&I. I don't know if that's actually applied to the I&I. We can actually take a look at it to see, and they might just need to be refined as far as where those D-longs and whatever are at. The other thing that you would have to do, I guess if we're going to stay on this topic, on top of setting those lines up in there, the other key point to it is on the pit lane 1, you would make your active pit stalls just where they're at, as far as like where the locations of pit you know, the stall 0 all the way to 42. Leave those where there's at in pit lane 0. Pit lane 1, you want to actually take advantage of that, because that's what the simulation will read. So where stall 0 would start on your pit lane 1 would actually be closer to that line in that pit lane, you know, where you want it to actually the pit lane to stop on pit lane 1. So you would have stall 0, say like in this zone. So that's what the simulation will read as far as like, okay, stall 0 is here. You're saying that the stall end, or the pit road end is here. That's gonna, those two pieces need to be lined up, I guess, well enough for the simulation to say, okay, you're on pit road or you're not on pit road. So what'll actually end up happening if you set this up right, as you come off pit road, you won't get to clear a pit road once you clear this light blue and dark blue. You'll actually get it at this point. So once you hit this point, if it's all set up rightly on the D-long, and where your stall 0 is in pit lane 1, as far as the pit overlay, you'll actually won't get to clear a pit road until that line, instead of this line. But traditionally, that's how the game would, the simulation would read it. As far as like once you get past that very last stall on pit road and the very first stall on entrance, that's how it gauges as far as like whether or not you're actually on pit road. So by extending it, you're telling it, no, that's not where it is. It's actually over here. So it's just, again, just taking advantage of that option there. So there's those two pieces that have to be lined up. This is how your track is designed, and also in the pit lane, you want to stagger. That's the word I was looking for. Stagger the stalls. Don't use the same exact stall locations. You want to start off closer to that and then work back. And even if you do bleed it in, you want to have at least 6 to 8 stalls within that pit lane 1 area, just to cover that span, just to give you enough room. And if it ends up bleeding in the pit lane 1 section to what you already have, that's fine, because those stalls aren't actually going to be used by the AI. They'll only use the ones that are in pit lane 0 in this case. Are you sure? No, man. No, I haven't done this a few times here. Steel, how are we doing here? Nice. Welcome on in, Steel. Yeah, we're just going over some of the dynamics of how the pit road can be designed. Now, the way it is right now, if you weren't to apply the overlay, you know, the extension of the pit road protocols at all, you could leave it just like it is. And what will basically happen is the simulation will just read it as it would traditionally. So as you clear this line here on pit road, it'll say you're clear, and just not even read this line. The same would go on the pit entrance. So if you want to keep it that way, that's an option, but just something to think about, I guess, as far as that. And it would be relative. You don't have to change your segments at all. It's just to be a matter of redefining this as apron, leaving this as apron. So you don't have to. There's really not a whole lot of heavy geometry editing that would need to be done. Taking a break. You seen the kid on you? I don't know if you're talking. What are you talking about? what is the overlay thing I speak of? You know, the overlay, I just call that a pit overlay, I guess, as far, it's not, you know, what you would think. Basically, the overlay just means that you're extending out. So let's take a look at the actual I&I. What did you mean about going to Claire? No, I'm not going to Claire. I don't know if I said that. I said to be clear. I don't know if that's maybe I misspoke. Let's see here. Let's go and talk about. I want to look at your track I&I here, Torch, and see what you did here. So let's bring it up. Yowza, that's not what I wanted. Got a little crazy, hell. So, right now, all you've got is pit lane 0. So that's the one section here. So to do the overlay, and I use that term loosely, you're basically just putting in a pit lane 1 section and taking advantage of that, and then set your D-longs, D-lats, or whatever for where the pit lane ends and starts to take advantage of those overextensions, I guess, of the actual active pit road. And I don't know how else to explain that. That's the best term that I can use as far as applying an overlay. So the overlay is basically just that extension of the actual active pit road. So, oh, friendly trolling. Okay, no problem. I wasn't sure. I know sometimes it's hard to determine, I guess, as far as which ones that are trolling and which ones aren't. So, for example, I'm just gonna give you an idea here as far as like what I talk about an overlay. So what I would do is I would copy this section here for the pit lane 0. I was gonna make a copy of this, and you're not gonna need all these stalls, but I'm just gonna go ahead and copy the whole section here just for now, right? Let's do this. Paste that, and then what I'm going to do is actually rename this as pit lane 1 so that the simulation will read it as a second pits. Now keep in mind too that it's the only thing it's going to use, the simulation is going to use, is just those sections, I guess, for if the car is actually on pit road. It's not going to use the stalls, you know, as far as where you get your car serviced, for example. That's not how it works. So I just want to make that clear as well. So what you would have to do, keeping everything the same as it is in pit lane, other than naming this pit lane 1, I'm going to chunk this down. I don't need all these, so I'm going to go just the first 8 stalls, for example, and chunk out this middle section here, like so. And I'm going to close this up. So you want to have on your pit entrance and your pit exit, you want to have a few stalls in there. So if it's, you know, anywhere from like 6 to 8, just to give it a little bit of a buffer, so that the you don't want just a couple, because you want to give the simulation time to react, to say, oh, you know, cars in that zone, or it's not. So it's just giving, it just kind of coincides with everything else that you've done as far as to adjust that size of the lead segment and so on and so forth. If you're keeping in mind as far as the actual head to tail length of the vehicle being considered, that's really all you're doing. Back to work and be safe. We will, Steel. Thank you. Yeah, we're heavily working here. I know you're working on some stuff there too, Steel. I'll be getting with you probably later. Yeah, that's understandable. I know I'm not hearing very well because I got some serious head congestion going on here. So if I missed something too or misspoken there, it's probably why my voice is. Justice coming on in. Honest question, ever considering applying for iRacing mod track? No, I haven't. I actually haven't there. Just welcome on in. I actually haven't. I've been to... I don't even know if the protocols are the same. Maybe... I think you've got quite a bit more knowledge than I do, I guess, in that department there, Justice, as far as... but I haven't, honestly. If there's something that's similar, I guess, in the way that we do still with in our 2003, that may definitely probably interest me. But because to be honest, I think the last time that was even in iRacing was probably back 7 years ago. That's the last time I've even had an actual iRacing account. And actually, I was kind of gifted that, just to try it out. I didn't mind it. It's just I know they've changed quite a bit in that simulation since then. You know, to include like dynamics, I guess, for track temperature, heat, and all this kind of stuff. You know, as far as rubber compounds, you know, the tire physics and stuff like that, which is not even close to what Enter 2003 has, as we know. It is basically the same system, you know, as far as the INIs are designed and such. It's kind of interesting how they, I guess, if they're still using the same structure, as far as the D-longs, D-lats, and stuff like that. Even things like cam files and stuff like that, I guess, are still relatively the same. Because we've gone over quite a bit on cam files too, as far as like being able to use XYZ, D-long, D-lat, as far as to position cameras in a particular spot on a track to get a certain perspective. Crazy. Yeah, so folks, if we don't know anybody, I guess, if we don't know at all, I guess, as far as the likes of Justis, they're obviously his partner on Twitch, whatever, playing a lot of iRacing lately. He's formerly a big-time driver in Enter 2003. He's got some championships under his belt, I guess, in the Enter 2003 forum there, for lack of a better way to put it. So getting that insight of it, he's got a lot more knowledge than I would as far as like the iRacing, as far as like, but there are a lot of similarities, as he's mentioning, between that simulation and Enter 2003, because some of that stuff carried over from. So that's pretty cool insight. You can create one in game. Wow, that's different. I think I've seen a couple of drivers, I guess, do that, as far as like, especially like in replays, to be able to set their own cameras right on the fly. That would be really cool. Yeah, in the iRacing Pro Series. So, yeah, I don't know. I know they got different series in there, and I know I have seen some of them, but I'll be honest, I don't follow a lot of it. I'm still like really heavy, I guess, in the Enter 2003 side of things. Not to say anything terrible, I guess, about iRacing. iRacing is like, it was just from when I was in there, like I said, back about 7 years ago up until now. I know a lot of stuff has changed. So as far as just the dynamics of it, and not that it doesn't interest me, but it's like they don't really let you in there, I guess, to be able to edit the files like you can in Enter 2003. And I guess that's why I keep navigating myself back to Enter 2003. If they allowed, I guess, more adjustability and the track INIs and stuff like that, I probably use it more. Nice. Drop in one day as far as the cam files and all that. Yeah, I might have to do that. That'd be kind of interesting. I know I've seen a couple of drivers like the likes of Cosman. I know he's got iRacing. Big fan, I guess, of Splash and Go. He's kind of navigated himself away from Enter 2003 as well. I don't know. I still got a lot of stuff, I guess, experience, I guess, to be able to use some things in Enter 2003 as well. So I just continue to use them. But if a lot of those stuff are the same in iRacing, may consider it. Yeah. You got cam shakes, blur effects. That's pretty neat. I think a lot of the racing simulations are going into that. So I know Assetto Corsa has that option. Project Cars. I've played a lot of those types of sims like that. I know the latest rendition of Assetto Corsa, that I get the name wrong, but as far as the latest rendition of Assetto Corsa, anyway, I know it has that, somewhat of that same type of feature too, to create them based on either replays or just track. You know, if you're going into the track, you can set those cameras up how you want, so that you can use them in replays. Party night. Yeah, so that's something that we've definitely gone over. I still got those cam files to their Torch. I didn't forget about that. I just haven't gotten them to you. You were saying you wanted to use those ones that I came up with. Granted, keeping in mind that those were just a placeholder. I was just kind of showing that process. I need to still get with James about the he's got that little jig, whatever, for the camera to kind of add to and elaborate as far as the jig that I've created, I guess, for the placement in Sandbox or whatever, to get those camera files set up. So I need to get with him, I guess. But getting back into these setting up this overlay I know this is a lot of information going on here, and I think that's pretty cool. I need to get, yeah, Justice, I'll probably have to get with you at some point, I guess, to see what similarities there are with tracks. I have no idea. I know what it was like when I was looking at it back about 7 years ago. Everything was pretty buttoned up as far as like what you can edit, as far as like track ionize and stuff like that. So I know the setup files are different. They got what's called the STO files, I believe, if I'm correct. I've gotten shared, I guess, some setup files from that, which are completely different animal, I guess, in there 2003, as we remember. Yowza. Did you try putting a link? Steele's going back to the... did you post a link? Oh, I see. You were talking about App INI. You can get the App INI. Oh, I'm sure. Okay. Okay, so they have DAT files much the same way as Enter 2003s, to where you can unpack it, like with WinMip 2, or do you have to use a different utility? These are the types of things I'll have to probably get with John. I'd just be curious, because if you can edit those things on your own end, as far as an end user, that's the only thing I would be interested in. If there's a capability to do that, I definitely want to see how that works. Okay, gotcha. So they do still have a DAT file, but I assume that DAT file's probably got a little bit different structure than the DAT files that we know from Enter 2003. So the fact that they're still using that file extension, that's about the extent of what we know. And I think I do remember that, I guess, from going back 7 years ago, but I think I did try to use like the command prompts, you know, as far as that you can use in Enter 2003, and it wouldn't work that way. So that's kind of where I ended. It's just like, well, that's kind of dumb. I want to be able to at least look at the track, I guess, from there, and be able to edit at least on my own end, if I have that ability. That was all. So yeah, that might be some things. Appreciate you stopping on in, I guess, to see. Yeah, holding true, I guess, to your NASCAR 2003 roots. That's pretty cool to see someone of your caliber, I guess, and come in here, I guess, and actually still have some interest, I guess, in what's going on with Enter 2003 anyway. So you got talk to Jake Poulin. I know that dude. I know of the name, let's put it that way. He works for iRacing now, track guy. Let's see, he made the new Kentucky, nice, and helped on North Wilkesboro. Yeah, I've got my yeah, I got the North Wilkesboro track that iRacing did there. I've talked with my partners in crime here, I guess, with the Enter 2003 side of things, and you know, I like what they've done with it, don't get me wrong, but I think it could have been done differently as far as just the way they've presented it. And this is the type of thing that kind of bugs me, I guess, about, and again, it kind of navigates me to just working with what I know how to do in Enter 2003, because I have more control over it, is all. And I guess there's things that I would have liked to be able to put into that, and I think that's what you were suggesting, as far as to talk with those guys to see what kind of things I can throw at them, I guess, as far as like, well, what about this? You know, because there's some things that I know from the 3D modeling side that, you know, we can apply to a track and make it like, okay, I can make it a consideration, at least anyway. Because there's definitely some things that I would have probably would like to see them done differently with like the North Wilkesboro build. Because as you may or may not know, as far as like Racer James had started off a pretty decent build, and it's pretty solid, you know, based on all the LiDAR data that we were able to get, based on before it started to really deteriorate and things like that. And I know iRacing had used a lot of information that was based on the track was in a lot more decay, I guess, than what we based it on, as far as James and I based it on. So there's definitely some things that we would have done differently, and that's what James and I have talked about. And it's just like, if there's more transparency, I guess, with the likes of the staff at iRacing, I would be open to that for sure. Because I feel like I could probably bring something to the table there anyway. Be curious on that. So you're saying Jake there has something like that. I may have to reach out and see what. So Kentucky's got there. Have they done anything with Nashville? Do you know there, Justice? I know that was being a hot topic of a discussion there, I guess, as far as that the Cup Series anyway is going to be going there. I know there's a lot of tracks like that I know that iRacing was considering, and it's like, that'd be really cool, I guess, to have an updated Nashville Super Speedway track. It's already out. See, that goes to show you how far I'm out of the loop. So if it is already out there, that things like that I would have been definitely interested in there. Because I know, again, that's something Racer James in particular, and I've kind of helped him a little bit. He's done most of the grunt work, I guess, on the Inter 2003 side of things. Yeah, I would definitely... Those types of tracks I would definitely be interested in, I guess, in being able to see come to fruition, I guess, in a newer simulation, as well as Inter 2003, to be honest. Yeah, the fairground. I don't know if it was the fairgrounds or the whatever track that NASCAR's Cup Series, I guess, is going to be going to next season. I think that's what they were talking about. I guess I just assume. I don't know if it's the fairgrounds or if it's the Super Speedway. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so the Super Speedway one they haven't worked on yet. Gotcha. See, that would be the one I would probably be interested in seeing coming to a simulation like that, as far as a newer simulation, because we definitely don't have an accurate one as of yet, full accurate version of that type of track in Inter 2003 or iRacing, as you just mentioned. Because there's a lot of information out there that's clearly available for any of those. NASCAR is right. That's what I was mentioning there, Torch. But the fact that they don't have it specifically in iRacing yet, it probably should be. Because they're doing the right things. I feel. I hear a little bit at a time, as far as like they did the North Wilkesboro thing to kind of, make a time capsule of that. That was a big thing with Dale Jr. as far as to make sure that it doesn't go completely to the wayside and have it. Now you got it in the virtual sense, and I think for the most part, the staff at iRacing, they did a pretty good job on it. I think there's just some things that could have probably been done differently about it, is all. It would have been nice to have some input or feedback, I guess, as far as from some of the end users. And I'm not saying there wasn't, but there's things that like those like myself and Racer James would have been able to apply. Say like, what about considering this, and then to be able to apply that to the track anyway. Lots of things to think about there. But yeah, I'll probably, I think I have seen Jake, actually, if it's the same one, I've seen like in Cosman's Discord and stuff like that. I don't know if if that's the same one or not, but I have heard of that name though. That's pretty cool. I guess we got someone from the ranks of Inter 2003 community, I guess, actually working, I guess, with iRacing and actually building tracks in there, like he's mentioned the Kentucky track. That's pretty cool. Now I consider that Kentucky track that's in iRacing, that's the new configuration as far as the banking, as far as the differences in turns 3 and 4 and turns 1 and 2. Because if that's the case, that's pretty cool. Have they gotten the new Texas in there yet, as far as the new configuration of that? That's another thing. I'm just thinking of tracks off the top of my head. So last year, nice. So that's good to see that they're actually applying, some of those newer aspects. I know they still have the older tracks, the older configurations of tracks, and I think that's pretty neat as well. As far as to have the nostalgic runs, I guess, on tracks that in the older configurations. I've seen that on several streamers, using the iRacing. It's just like, wow, they actually still got a lot of those tracks in there as well as the new ones. I think that's nice to have both aspects, because we were able to enjoy that same type of aspect even in Inter 2003, to have an older configuration as opposed to newer. Earlier, their Dover's outdated. Well, that makes a good point as far as what I was just talking about, Torch. So it's like some of the tracks that are obviously not updated as of yet. And that's probably why you've taken the initiative, I guess, to build one for NR 2003. And I think, just as we've mentioned, as far as like, regardless of the way, if you wanted to consider, I guess, putting a lot of these aspects of these assets to the track into a newer simulation, you totally could do that. And that's why I've gone through the whole entire method of building it in such a fashion so that it can be applied to either a newer rendition of a simulation or an older. And it's optimized in that way. Because it definitely comes down to the overall game engine as far as to handle rendering certain aspects of the track itself as well as the assets to it. And if you don't have those designed to be optimized, obviously it's not going to run very well. You're going to have a lot of frame rate issues and lagging, and you're already dealing with, in most cases, netcode, as we know. You've come to understand when you're racing those types of things online, because again, as we know that iRacing is more geared to be more online racing. If you don't optimize a lot of these types of things, as far as the design of them, you're already having to deal with that netcode. That's just another problem that you have to deal with. So if those aren't designed properly in the first place, it's just a compounded problem. So, and this is why it is taking into consideration, if you wanted to put it in a newer, it doesn't matter if it's the Corsa, Project Cars, iRacing, if you have that ability, or just keeping it in NR 2003, you have that flexibility if it's all designed properly anyway. You have to scan them first. See, like most of the stuff that we do, just to give you some insight there, Justice, is like Torch has mentioned, and we've even mentioned in the live streams here, that you would use LiDAR. So like up-to-date LiDAR. I don't know which year that Torch, you could probably chime in on that. As far as what year you necessarily use, I guess, to get the height data. But as far as to get, we don't take scans of the actual building, as far as the detail that's in the scan itself, based on that LiDAR information that's fully available on the USGS website. As far as like, in most cases, it's pretty up to date depending on the region. But that's how you get the height data, I guess, for the different buildings and such, right? So like for the garage areas like that, to get the proper height, as far as where they stop and start and so on, that's based on that information. Not saying it's 100% accurate, but you're getting it pretty doggone close within, we're talking like within inches, maybe even less than a foot, I guess, as far as the overall size of things. So that's a huge jump in there, and that's just using information that's freely available, like I said, on the USGS website. It may come to pass where you may not find information that's 100%. Like Torch and I, not too long ago, was looking for information on the Texas Motor Speedway, right? And what we came to find is the information is there, but it's kind of chopped up as far as like the areas that they scanned, but a majority of the information is still there. I think in actuality, Torch, you can probably remind me too, as far as like when we were looking at that, we could actually tell that the turn 1-2 area that was based on 2018, it might have even been 19, which is post fact of when they applied that new change in 17 to the turns 1 and 2 side. It's all right there. It's all completely available on the USGS website, and it's a pretty detailed scan. And and that's kind of what we as the low boys, I guess, as far as like not having the technology that iRacing has, is to use that to our advantage for creating the tracks, the track geometry, as well as assets to the track in that fashion. Rescan. Okay, I got you. Yeah, was it from 19? Yeah, I know it was post fact, at least from the changes they actually made, which was in spring of 17. So, which is useful information. It's just a matter of downloading that information and actually putting it to use is all. But you can see, I know I got this in this view here. I meant to switch this over here. This is just to kind of give a little bit of review on what we got going on here. This is what Torch has been working on for the better part. He's probably been working on. I know we've got quite a few episodes to get as far as just helping him optimize it a little bit more, get rid of some of the frame rate issues and so on. We've tested this track on the most up-to-date Monster Energy mod that Splash and Go came out there, this thing is like solid. I mean, the detail that's in it is phenomenal for something as old as Inter 2003. Just, you know, for what teaching this old dog new tricks, I guess, as far as like it's really proven that you can do that. So that's another reason why I guess I stick with it. I mean, if it was broken to the point where there's no way to optimize it without adding this and that and the other thing, I guess to try to get it to not crash the desktop or whatever, I would probably never continue to do it. But the fact that we do have the ability, I guess, to do that, that's why the only reason why I continue to work on such simulations is this is all. But yeah, anywhere you look on this thing, even in the sandbox here, as far as all the detail that's in here, you don't get any lag anywhere. Now, going all the way back to when I was first assisting Torch on this build, there was all kinds of lag. I mean, you could barely move around in here without it just stuttering. It was insanely, and you know, not criticizing or insulting Torch, I guess, as far as that. He was trying to throw as much at the track as he could to get the detail in the track, and you know, he's done very well at just redefining and optimizing these things to make it a lot more smooth. I mean, anywhere you go on this track, it doesn't matter if it's in sandbox or in the game, it is so smooth. It's like butter. I mean, and this is what I like about it. So we got 3D safer, you know, things like that, both on the inside, outside. All this detail, I guess, on this is redone. So many new items in this track. It's the Victory Lane, that's all 3D. Care Center, which initially started from James, Racer James, but Torch has refined it. And that's not to criticize, I guess, James' effort there at all, but again, that's when James was initially trying things out there. He was really just trying to get an idea of how much you could actually throw at it before it would crash a desktop or whatever. So now we're to the point where, you know, we can tone it down a little bit, so he's still got some detail, but it's not going to choke your frame rates. That's always a big concern, I guess, as far as racing on tracks. They have a lot of detail. One of the latest things that has been applied with these objects too is being able to turn some of them off. So like if we go into the population switch, you know, as far as like depress of the O key in the simulation, you can turn a lot of these things off if you don't want to. If you just want just the track, you have that option. You know, if it's a distraction for your drivers, I guess, to have those items in there, you can easily turn them off. And just much the same way we feel that Papyrus would have done the same way if they were to do it. So we're kind of, in our own sense, kind of extending the legacy, I guess, of what Papyrus would have done if they were still around. Which, you know, as we know, there's some remnants of that happening over at iRacing now. So, how we doing there, Racer James? We've had a pretty good conversation here, I guess, about Justis is coming in here and giving some insight, I guess, as far as like what is going on with iRacing as opposed to what we're doing here. And I think there's still some parallels to that, you know, as far as like the file formats and whatever. It's pretty cool. So he's giving me some insight, I guess, as far as some personnel that actually work at iRacing now that came from the Inter 2003 ranks, to include himself. I mean, there's some things that are similar in structure and what iRacing is doing in comparison to what we're doing here. So whether or not I would take the initiative, I guess, to kind of reach out, I guess, to the likes of those people over there to kind of give some insight. I might necessarily do that because I feel like I got a lot we could probably bring to the table. And I speak of us as a team here. I think there's some things. I know I mentioned your track, North Wilkesboro there, James, I guess, as far as what has been done within our 2003 side and what iRacing could have necessarily done, for example. Not to say that what they've done there is completely wrong, but, you know, there's some things that could have been done differently, for example. Yeah, so hope your Saturday here is finding you well there, James. I know you were working on your new ride. I think the last thing I checked there. I know you've got a new sound system in it and all that stuff. It's pretty cool. I can't say enough of this as far as how far this track has come. I guess from the start of it, it's like so good. It's fun to drive on. There's nothing that really stands out that's just an eyesore that really needs some big time help. I think it's just come a long way. And just these little features like this, as far as having these brackets on the end. I mean, it's just all these little details. And I don't want to beat a dead horse on that, because we kind of already know this, but you can put a camera pretty much anywhere, and you're going to get a ton of detail without any lag. I'm just going to leave it here for now. I'm going to get back into this, describing this overlay. So getting back into this here, I know there's a lot of information, like I said, and it's very insightful, I guess, to know that iRacing is still using somewhat the same file structures as we do in NASCAR 2003, maybe just a little bit different fashion as far as like how you can extract that and put them back in and so on. So we'll probably be looking into that at some point. I don't discount it all as far as like what iRacing's doing. One of the things that kind of does bug me about it, still, I'll just get on my soapbox here a little bit, is their pricing structure. I think this pricing structure is a little bit ridiculous, and I'll just say that, and that's where I'll leave it. I don't discount at all as far as like, yeah, they should be charging, I guess, for that, but I think the nickel diming of it, as far as the membership fee, as far as to have to actually pay for the DLC or the downloadable content, having that double tier, I guess, the pricing structure, that needs to change. So that's a little bit of a flaw that I feel it still exists with that. Not that they shouldn't be charging it. I 100% feel they should with what's going on there, but I think it needs to change a little bit is all. I'll just leave it at that. So getting back into this overlay, what you want to do, hopefully I didn't get too lost in translation here. Pit lane 1, I just take a copy of the pit lane 0, and then basically what you would have to do to extend that, to take advantage of that extension, and this is assuming that you have all those sections already applied. We're going to assume that our line is right here, so I'm going to get out my linear guide here, use that as a tool. Alright, let's do this. Let's do that, and we want to put that right in this line where we want that section, where they want that defined as far as where our pit lane is going to end on this pit lane 1 section. Alright, so on this D-long, now it's got a little bit of a angle to it, so you always want to go with the furthest D-long in this case. So it's going to be this point and not this point. Right? I've pointed that out before too, I guess, as far as when you're defining your restart zone. Same idea. You want to use the longest D-long. So if I pointed at this, we got, what does this come out to? 197.84, and then this one happens to be 19571. So that's obviously further this way than it is this way. So you want to take your furthest most D-long to determine that point. And that's just to eliminate. Now, if it was more straight, you wouldn't have that much of a problem, right? But that's obviously not what we have here. So you want to go with this value right here for your D-long, and this will be for your pit lane end on pit lane 1. So we're going to, so 197.84 is what we want to apply. That's assuming this is where we want that line to be. If this needs to be adjusted, then you would have to adjust that before you use that value. Oh yeah, it's starting grids, my bad. So you got to look for pit lane end. So there should be a line in here called pit lane end right here. So in pit lane 0, we're at 175.52, which is going to be over here. So that's going to be at this line. We don't want it to read that. We want it to read this line. So that's why we put this in pit lane 1. Okay. This is where the overlay comes into place. When I mention overlay, that's what we're talking about, is extending that active pit road on pit lane 0. So we want to put 197.84 on this one. So do 197.84. That's the value we took from this value right here. Okay, so that's going to be our new pit lane end on pit lane 1. And then our pit lane start, that's going to be on the other end. So we're going to take our linear guide and take it over that way. You know, the other thing I guess I kind of consider too, I know, we're kind of on a topic still, I guess, of the iRacing stuff. Whoops. I think they use a more glorified version of Sandbox, if I remember right. They do use, it's not the same one that we're using here. Gosh darn it. Gotta zoom in here. I lost my midsection here. Come on here, linear guide. Where'd you go? What the frick is going on? I lost my middle section. I was trying to grab the middle there. Kind of lost it in the translation there. Got buried up in the textures there. Alright, anyway, we want to take our linear guide over to the pit lane start, which is over here. Now, keeping in mind, we don't want to change anything that's in the pit lane 0. We're only adjusting for pit lane 1. Can't say that enough. Alright, so... Alright, let's say we want that, that line to be on this yellow line right here. Okay, so we're going to line our linear guide up this way, and much the same way as the pit lane end, or we're going to apply this to pit lane start. So we're going to put this right here. So we want to read this value. It's hard to read in there, it's in the grandstands. Let's zoom in here. There we go. So that one we've got 1242, and then this one's at not much difference there. So basically 1242.38 thereabouts. Yeah, well 1242.38. So not much of a difference there. Very minimal. So we can do 1242.38 on the pit lane start on pit lane 1. So pit lane start, we want to change this to 12. It's already pretty much there. Okay, so this one must have already got adjusted here. So probably what you'd want to do in this case here, you don't want those two values to be the same in your pit lane 1. So this one looks like it's already set that way, which is wrong. That was wrong in the first place. Where it should have been put for pit lane 0, and I'll probably go ahead and change that, is actually either this line or this line. So we'll just move our D long. So we're going to leave the pit lane 1 right where it's at, but we're going to change the one in pit lane 0. So that's going to be right behind our first pit stall here. So as long as it's in this zone here, and it's ahead of this line. That's the key to it there. You don't want it to be the same as the one in pit lane 1. So in this case here, we're gonna put pit lane 0 at this point. That should be this value. And again, I'm in the grandstands. We're gonna zoom in. Zoom in and reposition here. So we'll go like this. $1384.87. Is that 1304? Hold on a second. I think my eyes are 1304.87, and then this is 1305. So we want the 1305. Again, you always want to go by the highest D long. So the furthest the highest in, because especially if you got an angle. Let's try this again here. Let's just to double check it. 1305.56. Yeah, we can even go split the difference and do 1305.50 just to kind of round that off. That would be pretty good. And as long as it's, again, as long as it's not the same and it's further up the chain as far as the direction of the track from the one that's in pit lane 1. So in this case, we want to leave pit lane 1 right where it's at and change pit lane 0 on the start here. We want to change this to 1305.50. That's where that should have been in the first place. Like so. Now that's going to create that offset between the two pit roads right off the bat there, between your entrance and your exit. Now the other thing you need to adjust besides that is leaving everything else the same. You don't really need to change much else in there as far as your merge and all that stuff. That's the two key things you want to change between your pit lane 0 and pit lane 1. That's going to really define as far as that secondary pit road, as far as like where it starts and where it ends. The second thing you need to consider, you don't need the qual stall in your pit stall in pit lane 1. You don't need that. You can take that right out. Now what you need to do is on these, the stall 0 is going to be the most critical as far as where you set that. So what you want to do, and you can even put your pit jig in here as far as for your stall if you want to, just to kind of get you a better idea of where the center of that car would be at this line. I think that's where we put it. It was on this line, right? Let me double check that. That was 197. Yep. So on this line right here. So even if it does need to be this line, you want to put it on this line instead of this line. I guess I set it to this line to where you can start speeding. You know, where you're clear pit. If it needs to be here, then you would have to adjust it on this line. But we're just going to keep it on this line. So at 197 here, we want to put the stall where that stall is on this side of the line. I know that sounds backwards, but you want to put that stall 0 on this side. So keeping in mind the way the simulation will read is where is this first stall. So in this case here, we want it to read after this line. So by the time you hit this where this stall is on this side of the line where you've got this D-long set, that's where it's going to say you're clear of pit road. And that's also coinciding with how you define this area as far as apron your pits, as far as to give you that spotter cue. So again, let's just put this on here. So as long as this is in that bright orange, like this is apron your pits, once you're in that zone, if you put this stall right here, you're going to get that clear pit road once you pass this line. Now, if it needs to be this line, that would be different. You know, we'd have to set that D-long appropriate. We're just going to continue to use this line as an example. Okay, so let's go back to textures. So in this case, we want to set the stall. And again, you can use your pit jig if you want, as far as to get the size of the car where the center point of that stall would be. I'm just going to kind of eyeball it. So in this case, 203.92. So let's put that value in here. 203.92. And this is going to be offset, just like the start and end of pit road is going to be. So we're going to put 203.92. And you really don't need to adjust the D-lat usually. It's the D-long that's going to be the most critical, because again, these stalls aren't going to be actively used. It's only used, you know, by your car, the player car, or the AI. It's just that positioning of that D-long is really what it's going to pay attention. Now, if you got it too far out as far as on the D-lat, that'll make a difference. So we're just going to go ahead and check the D-lat just to make sure it's not too far this way or out this way, because we do have a little bit of curvature here from where we're originating it from on this stall. So let's just check that. So we'll go 203.92. So we're just going to say an even 27 on the D-lat. It's like 26.98. That'll get us in the ballpark. So we'll just put this at an even 27.00. And it don't have to be exact. Like I said, the most critical is going to be the D-long. But you don't want your D-lat to be, you know, too far off. You don't want it way out here or way inside here. You want it in close proximity, I guess, of that. But it's not really as critical as the D-long in this case. Alright, so that one's set. So that's going to be the stall 0 on this overlay, you know, for your pit lane 1 is the most critical. Now from here, you can just kind of go back and just kind of put any kind of numbers. It doesn't matter, as long as it's lesser and not ahead of that stall 0. So you can generally just leave these right where they're at and not even touch those, as long as you adjust the stall 0. So those are pretty much done. Now on the pit entrance, much the same process. Much the same process. So we want to go over here. And again, you can use your pit jig if you want. But since we've got that line here, you know, set on this line as far as like where our pit lane starts on this point, what we want to do here is make sure that we got the stall on this side of the line. So again, considering the direction of the track. So on pit lane exit, you want it on after that line, as well as on this one here too. Hopefully that makes sense. So you're putting it on this side of the line on both cases, right? So where that is here, stalls on this side. Also here, you want to put that stall here. So again, once you clear this line, the simulation is going to read that first pit stall. That first pit stall in pit road will be that stall 42, and pit lane 1 is going to say, okay, I'm on pit road. I need to be at speed. So if you're in this zone using this overlay and you're speeding, it's gonna flag you. That's the whole point of applying this overlay. All right, so what we want to do is put our stall like right about here. Again, I'm just kind of eyeballing it. You can use your, if you don't have a jig, go ahead and use your linear guide and put it at 3.50. That'll give you the length of the vehicle. So let's go ahead and do that, just for the sake of it. let's do 3.50. Set it up here. We can zoom in quite a bit to get it more precise. Well, a little too much. Right about there. So as long as I grab it from the center here, I won't change that. So this is roughly the length of your vehicle, 3.50, and we want to navigate it over to here. So that's the size of your vehicle. And actually, that's wrong. I'm sorry. That's the width of it. Got to put it at 6. Front to back is 6. So we want to go this way. Okay, so right about there. That's the length of your vehicle roughly from head to tail. Or tail to head, vice versa. That's your center point. So this is what you want to go by as far as where that stall would be. So you can use the center point right here as your D-long. I could do the same thing on the pit lane end on the other, as far as the exit. So we go on this point and get that D-long. 1247.79 and plug that into here. On stall 42. 1247, what did I say it was? 1247. Yeah, 1247.79. So we'll plug that in here. 1247.79. And then again, we can get our D-lat. Since we got some curvature here, we'll definitely make sure we're checking on that's not too far off. You can plug that in. 29.19. So we'll plug that into here. 29. Yeah, we'll go ahead and change that. So we'll do 29.19. Now, I'm not worried about again, these stalls are not going to be used at all. The only thing, as far as for the vehicles, as far as either for the AI or anything like that, the only thing they're being used for is for the simulation to say, okay, there's a pit stall there, you're in the zone, you need to be at this, at pit road speed, for example. So this is as long as your very first stall and your last stall are, I probably got more than I need to. I can probably chunk some of these stalls out of here. And again, like I said, as long as you've got like, say like even 6 stalls, just to cover, to make a buffer here, and I can keep these separate here. To get this gap in here doesn't matter. So as far as like the simulation is concerned, when let's read this pit lane 1, at this point it's going to say, okay, on this pit road, and it's not the active one. The pit lane 0 is still active as far as all the stalls and whatever. Can't stress that enough. The only thing it's going to read is based on the apron near pits, as far as how I have those lined up, and this stall here, and saying, okay, is the car in this zone, as far as where the apron near pits is located. So again, let me go back to that. So as far as apron near pits, is the car in this zone? If it is, it needs to be at speed, at pit road speed. If it's not, then you get a black flag. That's basically what you're telling it to do by setting it up this way. So it basically negates using this first pit stall as far as this 1312 in pit lane 0. It's going to read, this one's going to have priority at this point now. Now you don't need to have any LPs. That's probably another fair mention of it. You don't have the need to have the pit LPs for pit lane 1. You just need to have these values in here like so. That's all you need. So the other thing is I can take out the qual stall. We don't need it. So there are some things that you can take out of here. It doesn't matter if you leave it in there, but I just like to clean it up just to kind of only use the values that we need. So we're still using all the same values in pit lane 0. The key ones are just like I already mentioned, as far as the pit lane start and the pit lane end, and making sure these two values here, that's probably another fair mention, these two values right here as far as your pit lane end and start are not the same as your stall 0 or your stall 42 in this case, as far as the very first pit stall coming onto pits and the very first pits exiting. Don't make those values the same, so otherwise there's no buffer in there for the simulation to calculate as far as like if you're in that zone or not. If you make them exactly the same, there has to be that spacing in there. Pace car stuff doesn't need to be in here as well. You can leave the race stuff in here. I'll just chunk some of this stuff out of here. We don't need this. You already have that in the pit lane 0. So just the critical pieces I'm leaving in there right there. That's basically the extent, I guess, of how you want to set up that overlay for pit lane. As far as your INI. Now, again, with your yeah, I would chunk these out here and make these all apron, so that way that's more defined that way. And that's just so if there's anything else that I did wrong as far as like where the lines actually need to be, you need to accommodate those, I guess, appropriately based on the track design, as far as like how you got those areas defined, as well as the INI. Okay. For the sake of, I guess, of doing this, just for demonstration purposes here, what I'll do is just I'll save this one here. I actually want to make a copy of this because I'm editing your INI, your brand new INI, and I still have that one, I guess, as far as that you sent me earlier. I'll just go ahead and save it. I've convinced myself. Save that. So this is the one we're going to test in game. So it's not going to be the same one that you sent me, Torch, but it'll be what I want to test here and just kind of prove my point as far as how that works, as far as the spotter cues and whether or not you get a black flag or not. And sometimes you might have to make an adjustment. It might not work the first time. That just creates the necessity to have to adjust it. But that's the general idea behind it. So the other thing I'm going to do, and I have that PTF of yours that you shared with me. I'm going to go ahead and adjust this PTF to accommodate all the changes that I've made to the INI and so on. So let's do this. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to lock the material so I can actually relabel these as apron. Okay, that's just the paint line. Okay, so let's make sure we get all this stuff here. So this is just the paint line. I just noticed that, actually. Yeah, that's alright though. We want to get these as apron. See, right now I can see the apron or pits. I want to enable that. There we go. There we go. I see it changing now. Apron forward. I'm not copying forward. I'm just moving forward. Another fair mention. So apron forward. So we want to stop it probably at this one. This is the last one I want to do. Whoop, we got a little bit here. That's actually, I can take this one out too if I want. I'll leave that in there. You might have to eliminate this one as long as you've got that zone. This is a little bit close. I might even go so far as just adjust this line, the visual line, so that it's on the edge of that segment, so that it actually picks that up where it needs to be. If I were to chunk this out, that's just that's an afterthought. We'll leave it right where it is for now, just to kind of prove that point anyway. Alright, so this one we want apron as well. There we go. So now all we only got is just this right here. That's all the game needs. That's all the simulation needs, is first to say, okay, I'm in this zone. It's defined as apron or pits. The spotter cue comes in saying, okay, you're on pit road, keep it on, whatever. As we know, depending on what type of spotter pack I guess you got. Alright, so we got that. We're going to do the same thing on pit exit. Let's go here. There's no need to have all this in here, because you might get, for lack of a better way to put it, an erroneous clear pit road if you have too much, more than what you actually need. That's just kind of toning it down a little bit, that's all. James is checking his fluids out there too. He's closing in on 355, 356 hours. Yikes. So much sport there. Got Torch here trying to get himself a... Did you get a jackpot yet? I didn't hear the win. Anyway. So I'm assuming not. So I'm going to do apron. 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 So we want to stop it at... it probably should have been this line. Now that I look at it. I'll go ahead and stop the apron near pits at this as close to this line as possible, and not this line. And again, this is for demonstration purposes anyway. You would need to put it. There's really no need to, in my opinion, to adjust, split the segment or whatever to get to where it needs to be. In most cases, just use what you have and move that visual line so that that accommodates that. So we're probably, looks like this one I can change to. This one's almost perfect. That's almost perfect. It's right there on that orange line. So that's all you need right there as far as apron your pits. And like I said, all that's is for the cue for the spotter to say, clear pit road, all that stuff. That's a whole different animal, I guess, as far as like once you're out of the pits and you get to that D-long as far as where you can merge, that's a whole other animal. Alright, so that's good there. Display, and then we're going to save this PTF. Now I still have that PTF that you gave me, so I can always put that one back in there. This is just going to be for demonstration. So I'm going to save over this one. And probably good mention there too, the fact that I'm saving over that PTF, because I'm only making that change and it's not a really drastic change as far as geometry. It's not going to be a huge kicking it. No, I got the backup too. That's another fair mention too. So I got the backup. So saving over that PTF, it's not a lot of heavy changes made to that PTF. So the fact that I overwrote it, that's not a big problem. Now, if it was a lot more heavy changes made as far as like to X sections, as far as heights and stuff like that, I would totally save that as a new PTF. Because I don't want to step on that PTF, even though I do have the backup. That's just always recommended to never, if you're doing a lot of heavy geometry editing, to where you're removing walls, changing X sections, and things like that, always want to save it as a new PTF. Always, to save you that headache as far as like that, because regardless if you've got a backup a PTF I guess to fall back on, just save yourself that headache. To save a new PTF, rename it, put it in there, and actually test it out. Okay, enough on that. So now that I got this saved, and I got the backup, like I said, I can always refer back to that. We've got pretty much everything that we need at this point to be able to make our new DAT file and put it in our track. I got this backup of this PTF from last week. I'm going to chunk that out, as I've done before. Put that on the desktop. Currently don't have that one open. But until we can confirm that the track loads and runs the way it needs to and all that so on, we don't need that anymore. Or we can back it up in our PTF backup as far as our track edit directory. Whichever you decide to do. Okay, so this is our new PTF that I just saved. Everything is in here that we want to DAT up. So we're going to make DAT. And I kind of missed a step there, but just to ensure, I guess I have the proper name of the... In fact, I'm going to go ahead and delete this here. I got ahead of myself a little bit. To ensure that the PTF is the same name as the track, I'm going to copy the name of the track itself. Okay. Always a good habit to get into. Regardless if it looks fine, it may not be. You might have a space in there. Something like that. Just, again, just saving yourself the headache as far as like going in there. Why doesn't my track load? Well, did you ensure that the name of your PTF was right? So I'm just ensuring that it is. Copying the name of the folder. So regardless if you do it this way or if you're going back this way and copying the name this way, going like such, it doesn't matter as long as you're getting the name of that folder the same, so that it reads that, because that's what the simulation will look at as far as like when it's trying to open that DAT file. It'll read the PTF and the track folder, and if those don't line up, you'll get that could not load. And depending on how fast that comes up there, will determine if your folder and or your PTF is named wrong. Okay. So now we've ensured that the name of the PTF is proper. We'll go ahead and make our new... What are you giving me the cheese head there for, James? Alright, so we're going to... This is our new DAT file. I've already got it backed up in our track folder in our simulation here. So I got this backed up. It won't read this one when we load it in the game, in the sim. It'll only load this one here. And I got that new track INI as far as with all the changes to the pit lane 1. Now again, can't reiterate enough, you don't need the LPs for that. The only thing that we're using on that pit lane 1 is that extension as far as where that pit lane end starts, begins and ends, basically, with the conjunction of those pit stall locations in that section. We're going to test this all out. In fact, that's one of the first things I want to test when we get in the sim, just to kind of go over that. And then we'll look at all those other things too, like I want to. Okay, so that's backed up there. I don't need to have the track open anymore. Just kind of close that up. You can always open that back up. INI is good to go. Close that. And this is all that general information that Torch shared with us there. Cool. Alright, let me set this up in my profiler to get into the sim and go test this thing out. Yep, so I got this still on my farm shim. Was doing some stuff in that earlier. I like to put this, you know, I've kind of mentioned this before too, as far as like setting the persistence of your profile, as well as, it's one thing I guess is to set the profile up here for your buttons and whatever that you use on for that profile, if you've got it set up that way. It also helps you to go into here and change the persistence here. That way, and what the persistence is based on the settings there. You're using the persistence basically is coinciding with for that game specifically. Don't use any other parameters, I guess, as far as like how the wheel responds, other than for that game. So any settings that you're applying in the game, that's what it's going to read. Don't use anything else. So if you don't have this on, it's just going to use what you have set in the global settings for the profile itself. A lot of cases, that's not going to be satisfactory. So that's why I've got it both set on the profile and the persistence to that game. So that's what's going to use everything that's in the game. Alright. So I should be able to launch this right from here. Let's see if it makes me do it twice. Sometimes it'll do that. And it looks like it did. Okay. No problem. Launch it again. I'm going to have to get the wheel over here. But let's get it loaded up. There we go. And yeah, I think I will stick with the yeah, my Splash and Go as far as the up-to-date and modified, you know, clarified version of the original Cup mod. NASCAR Winston Cup 2003. Okay. Alright, so initially what I want to do here is go into testing mode. We got our track loaded up here, and it should load here. If it doesn't load, then we got a problem. And so far we look good. We get to this screen. Let's hit drive. And there we go. We got the Fred Jones, so the track loads and testing, so we know we're good in that point. Good deal. Let's go into this mode. So let's get out of that. We know what loads in there, so we're good to go. We don't need to make any other changes as far as adjustments to the name of the DAT or anything like that. Alright, so let's go into single race. There we go. And we'll keep it on our 20 laps. 42 cars, 95. That sounds good. They really kicked my butt, because as far as the way these cars are rated, as we've seen in previous attempts here. So let's go like that. Should load up here in race session. Oh, can't give you a shot. Yeah, you gotta wait a little bit. I saw that. Alright, so what we want to do, we're in practice here. I'm just gonna focus this on, what's that one? That's the 18. Saw the 18 come out there. And we'll focus on that car. There we go. Let's focus on this. We just want to look at the frame rates or whatever based on this here. Everything that's been applied now. We got some new items as well as track textures and such like that, so we just want to check it out from here. Pretty cool. Let's zoom it in a little bit more. So that's spectator view. Let's go TV2. Some really good shots. You can see the helicopter flying around here. Yeah, that shadowing on those bridges definitely has a really cool dynamic to it. This is a nice mod too. Notice they play homage to what Papyrus originally did to the original Cup mod. It's pretty cool. Yeah, that shadow looks really good on there. Alright, let's check it over to, let's try this view. Let's get in a few more cars in the view here. Yeah, so we can look at some of the pit stall locations here too. I'm noticing how close, I guess, those are to... now, we won't be able to see the animations for the other pit stall, but I can see just by looking at these how much closer the paint... Yeah, it's a lot closer to that outside, so it definitely can see some adjustments there. Looks really good. Let's go back here. So we got Mark is still in his stall. I want to go ahead and change some of those stalls that I pointed out. I think it was on stall 9. I wanted to see where that lands, for example. I'll definitely look into that. So we got one coming out of the pits. Now, this is probably a really good thing. Here, let me show you. So you can see when he starts speeding up. So the AI will even use this too. So he's at pit speed. Kind of, so he's already speeding up right there. See where he really shouldn't be. He shouldn't be speeding up really till this line. So there may necessarily need to be some adjustments because the AI will read those lines too, if you set them up right. But it's a fine balance between making it usable for the player as well as the AI. So the fact that pit road speed is 35 and he's already speeding within this zone, they're not really following that so far. Yeah, he's already speeding there. So 35 was the pit speed, if I read that right. He's already in that zone speeding. So what he's reading is that very last pit stall here. Yeah. Okay. What you can do to remedy this in some cases, just going back to the extended surface types that we have the apron near pits already starting at this. What you can do to remedy that in most cases, to get the AI to read that zone more, is to extend that dark blue as far as where pit road actually is, and then the AI will read that. It's like, oh, I'm still on pit road, I can't speed yet. So to get it closer to where that actual line is, that's the adjustment you can make there, is to define that pit road a little bit further. So there might be that might be a pretty easy enough adjustment to that, so that they use that rule, I guess, the same way as the player. So because for the player it should be pretty good to go. I don't know if we'll see any cars coming into the pits. Most of them are coming out. Kind of pan this around here, see if you can see anyone coming in. Really cool paint schemes on here. Oh, he's leaving the pits finally. Where did he speed up at? I was just kind of curious. Let's back that up a little bit. Where did he start speeding up? So he's at 34. Yeah, he does the same thing. So whether or not we have enough room in there to be able to make pit road a little bit longer, I guess on that, I have to take a look at that. Got his Viagra, now he's ready to go. There you go. He needed his blue pill, I guess, to get himself going. Yep. So the way they merge on it, that's pretty cool. I see what you did there, James. Oh, we just saw a car coming in the pits there. What was that? The Pennzoil car? I wanted to see, let's pan onto that one. I think that was the Pennzoil car. Jeff Green. Yep, he was coming in the pits there. Let's check him out. So as he comes into the pits here, I'm going to see when he starts blowing up here. So it should be already at speed. Well, he's already... Yeah, so same thing on this end. He'll probably get to speed once he gets to that first stall. Boom. So he's already on pit road speed right there. So they're following more of that same traditional concept there as far as like reading that very first stall on pit road. So again, on the pit entrance, you can, for the AI to listen, I guess, to where the first pit stall is, extend that where the pit road actually starts in that extended, and I'll show that afterwards. That'll get the AI, I guess, to say, oh, I'm still on pit road. I haven't reached my stall yet. So it's basically when they start reading the where the stall is, you know, as far as the light blue, that's when they're saying, oh, I need to be at speed. That's what the AI will read. So the AI reads a little bit different than what the rules for the AI and for the player car are different in that regard. Yeah, so I'm liking the way these is, and I'm gonna check a couple of these pit stalls a little bit as far as to see actually how those is, you know, in these curved parts, and as well as a couple other spots by just moving that stall 0, I guess, to where my car will spawn in testing. All right. So it looks like he's gonna sit there for a while. Oh, there he goes. Classic paint scheme though. That just looks so good. I guess as far as that. You would never think this would be Enter 2003. You know, it's like if you were to look at this and be like, what simulation is this? It's like, that is not Enter 2003. It's like, yeah, it is. Alright, let's go 2. Yeah, so that transition between turn 1, or TV1, TV2. TV1, TV2. Yep. I like having a difference in there, because some cameras, whatever that you get designed, they end up being relatively the same. That's kind of boring. So like when you can actually change the cameras and it's actually a whole different view. So that's a different view from this to that, this to that. It's still focused on the same car, but you're getting a different perspective of those anyway. That brings back some memories too, I guess, as far as when the Pontiacs were still running. Pontiac's not even a thing anymore. Don't even make Pontiacs anymore. That's what's crazy. Well, we got Force coming in here. Let me stop this. I saw the... Was that the 4 car? Let me back this up here a little bit. Yep, I saw the 4 car coming in there. So the 4 car... Mike Skinner? Man, that's a long time. Yeah, so again, we can see when he comes in. Yeah, he doesn't slow down till... Yep, right, that very first pit stall. See, he's already down to 35. So that's pretty consistent as far as like the AIs are consistently reading just that very first pit stall in here. So you can even go so far, even with the how do I want to put that, as far as to create that pit stall location. So even with the pit road, as far as the dark blue, you got the light blue as far as to define the pit stall. You can even go so far as that. That'll get the AI to read those values as far as that overlay a lot more effectively as the same as the player car. In fact, that's not a bad idea to apply that anyway, just so that you get that whole extension, I guess, of that pit road. It's not 100% necessary if you're only going to race it online, but if you want the AI to have the same rules as your player car, definitely behooves, I guess, to put that in there. As far as just put those fictional pit stalls to include the pit stall definition there, as well as the pit road as far as the dark blue on both ends, mind you, too. Yeah. You want to change the path for the Cessna to be closer? Yeah, path files, whatever. That's basically just all X, Y, Z. Those are pretty simple. You can use the actual model for that, as far as placing the waypoints for that, or you can create your own. As far as that goes, hell, you got the blimp in there. You can use that as it's a little overkill, but I mean, you can use that to set the waypoints for that. Just gotta put that around different points in sandbox there. It would say, yeah, I want it to go from here to here to here, so on. The Cessna, gotcha. So we're looks like we changed sessions here. We're in qualifying.
Drivers, to your cars.
I didn't ever get the wheel over. I'm gonna get the wheel over here. We're gonna test this thing here as far as how it works for the player car anyway, as far as these pit road protocols with the overlay and such. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, so just as I said there's a little bit of a balance if you want the AI to follow the same rules as the player. Like I said, if you're only going to use the track for online, that's a different thing. You can leave it just the way I have it. But if you want to be able to use it in both fashions, let me bring the wheel over just a second. I'm gonna mute the mic. Alrighty then. rather painless there. So let's go ahead and qualify. See what we can get here. I like this stalk wall. It's pretty cool too. See what we can get here in a qualification around here. I got the mirror and these standings and all that stuff set off here. Let's see if I can turn that back on actually. There we go. Get my warm-up lap in here.
Good one.
Well, I like when that flag came out too. Right there in the restart zone. That's all thanks to resizing and up that lead segment. Oh, I can feel the scrape in there. Yeah, that flag comes out perfect. And I got the pole. Nice. That's at 95% strength, too. That's pretty cool. Alright, so we're going to be starting up towards the front. Pretty nice. We're going to go ahead and right to race. Now, we're on full pace lap, so we're going to start starting on pit road. I'll get a sense. I've never been able to test that yet. I started in the back there. Previously, I had it on Mike Skinner. Let's put it on my car.
Drivers, to your cars.
Where my car at? 86. Yeah, buddy. So I'm not in the car yet, that's why. So yeah, you can really see how you took advantage, I guess, of overextending. And it's not by much either. Pretty good. As far as to keep it on that one side of where the lead segment's at and not have them bleed over, I guess, onto that other side. Very good. So this is the first time I've been able to start on the pole here. I was starting in the back in the previous test last week. We'll get the sense of what it feels like as far as to get in that restart zone and get the green flag as far as when the cue for that comes up. Let's actually go to this view for starters. Got some of my cords in the way. Yeah, so we'll get the test from this perspective here to see when that green flag comes. Should be right in that zone. That visual zone. So you can see the red light on the pit road. Nice. As well as the flag. Hey, quit crowding me there, dude. A little bit late, but not too bad. That's actually pretty darn good there. That was the late start, obviously. Not too bad. So we're still relatively in that zone. Holy crap, where did he come from? Guess I gotta get going. Oh crap, oh crap. He leaning on me. He leaning on me. Oh crap. Well, I was trying to bring a caution, but not quite this way. Oh, I'm on my eye. Good lord. I was trying to bring a caution, but not quite that way. My car is trash. Car is garbage. Gotta love my spotter. That was nuts. I did not expect that to happen. I was trying to bring a caution, but not quite that way. Freaking destroyed my car. Look at the damage model on this thing, though. It's pretty cool. Frame rates are actually up, pretty decent too. So we're gonna check out under caution conditions here. Yep, so the green light, so we get the green light. Let me turn this off here so we can kind of see what's going on here. See when we get that spotter cue. See? Right at that line, that's what we want. Hey, dude! So that spotter cue came in right at that line, that's what we want. I gotta turn around here, though. Yeah, I'm gonna get a black flag for getting spun around here, but That cue came out, if you notice, they're right at that line. That's what you want. That was probably a terrible one because I got spun out, but let me speed up here a little bit. But anyway, that cue came out right at that line. Right at that line. So that's when it would start actually timing you, I guess, as far as like if you're not at pit road speed, you would get a black flag. Regardless of what flag condition, either green or yellow. I'll probably start this over again just to kind of try to do it again without getting so incredibly demolished.
1 minute 35.004. Paint card on the front stretch here.
Yeah, I know I gotta.
The hell happened now? We have to stop because otherwise it would get to the penalty.
Yeah, I got spun out. That's why. Yep, it's junk. All right, let's go ahead and restart this. I'm gonna redo this. I'm gonna do retire, and I'm gonna go ahead and just accelerate this one. Get to the end. Let them finish this one out, and then we'll start a new race. Yeah, I was trying to bring a caution because I wanted to test it under caution condition, but not quite to that extreme. All right, we're done. All right. Let's try that again, shall we? Yeah, we're going to try and qual here once again. Run through the same paces here. Yeah, because the other thing we'll test too is on the exit. Remaking the trees help as far as yeah, I'm not seeing any increased frame rates, issues, I guess, as far as that goes. I think they look better, those trees there. Crude Q. I didn't do very good at simulating, I guess, bringing a caution on anyway. That's I'm going to see if I can do better at that, though. Yeah, I saw some of the, what you mentioned as far as they've been reduced, that's for sure. But they still look pretty good. Oh, baby. So fast off of 404, though. Let's see where I called when we get here. Check the standings here. I kept all that off. Yep, we got the pole again. Cool. And we were screaming. Holy mackerel. Anyway, so what we're going to do is go back to race. I'm going to try and not worry about bringing a caution out. I'll just try pit under green. Let's see what we get there. Yeah, they definitely do look better. James is still chiming in there. Oh, we got Harvick there in the 29. Remember back in 2003, yeah. Still got that number 3, I guess, right up next to it. Ran that for, I forget how many years he actually did run that before he actually got into his own number. Or did he run the 29 the entire time with Childers? I forget. Yeah, now that I think of it, I think he did run the 29. His whole tenure with Childers, now that I think of it. Oh, yeah. I mean, there's still some fine-tuning there, as we mentioned there earlier, but for the most part, it's pretty solid. So we've got the red lights going on in the pit light. As it should be until we get the green. Check this restart zone. Perfect. Right in the middle. Love it. It's right in that zone. I am out of here. I'm going to do a lap and then come in next time around and try to do a pit. One lap. Now this next lap around, we'll come into the pits. Try to execute a proper pit stop.
24.5.
I'm actually going to put it in this mode. Oop, got a little push there. Alright, we're going to make a pit stop here. Try to, anyway. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Ah, crap. I was afraid of that. Why did I know that was going to happen? Gosh darn it. We'll have to restart that. Let's restart. Restart. I was hoping that wouldn't happen. That's the only bad thing with, I guess, with trying to do that. I was hoping maybe they would just kind of notice I was trying to pit there. Yeah, they still have their issues. Not much you can do about that. I may have slowed up a little too much. I should have got more onto the apron there sooner. I didn't give him really much time to react. That's more or less driver error. Yeah, definitely got to get down to the apron sooner. 100%. I was still on the racing surface, so as far as they're concerned, it's just like, what the heck is he doing slowing down? It's like, oh, I guess I got to run him over. And that's exactly what they did. But at least that's a good test and lets you know as far as like what, you know, just the dynamics of the track as far as how that works.
Man, I'll call the green there. Nice first shift. I'll walk.
I'll get more onto the apron. I guess it's
All right, man. Pace car.
going into 3.
Get ready.
That's actually what you should be doing anyway. Late start. Late start. I hate driving in this view, I'm not gonna lie. I feel like I'm so disconnected with the car. I like to be either in the cockpit or on the roof. I don't know how people can drive this way. I don't need to see how my rear end is kind of kicking out and all that jazz. Okay, 1 lap.
25.5. 10.
Get some distance between me and the car behind me. Alright, we're going to try to pit right here. We're going to get on the apron. Whoa it up. There we go. There, right there. See, it gives you the pit road speed right at the line. That's what we want. Now, to watch out pit speed, we're going to test it again. We'll come in again. We'll do our pit stop, come back out, and then we'll test to see if we go even like a mile an hour or over within that zone, it'll actually give us a black flag coming in. So right now I'm just staying on pit road speed, kind of following that. Roof for motion. I can't even do that on plate tracks. I feel too disconnected with the car. Ooh, caution came out. Bummer. Now see, in reality, what you'd want to do is just not even stop. Just go right back out on the track. In reality. Yeah, you would definitely just want to go right back out. You don't want to make your stop because you're going to end up going a lap down. Yeah, well, for most, you know, I don't discount it. I just don't. I don't like that. I can't drive this way. I like to be this mode or this mode. What the hell is with my keyboard here? Keyboard got all jacked up there. There we go. Alright, so what I'll do this time, we'll wait after this caution. I'm going to come in another green flag and actually be over the speed limit, I guess, as far as when I'm in that zone after that line. And I should get a black flag.
There you go, go hard. Slow car ahead on the outside up here. Caution's out, caution's out. Go ahead and get caught up. My main pit road will be open this time.
Now, I'm probably already a lap down. Yep, 2 laps down. Okay.
Hold down, Junior. Got the defender on it.
Alright. That's no worry.
Hold down, Junior. Got the defender on it. 1 minute 20.
Alright, so we'll wait till after we go green flag. and I'll do at least a lap in green flag, and then we'll make another pit stop. So you can see already, as far as where that cue is coming out for get it down to speed, it's right at that line. That's the first step there. Now we want to test to see if it picks up as far as if you're speeding or not. If your pit road speed is 35, so if we're even going like 36, 37, once we pass that line, it should black flag me, especially once after I've done my pit stop. It's going to say, yeah, if it's still green flag and there's not a caution, it's going to tell me I have to do a stop and go, or at least a drive-through. But it should announce whatever I got a black flag for speeding coming into the pits. So we already tested it once coming in there solid, you know, as far as like not speeding, I guess, once we get to that line. And now we'll test it with speeding once we get past that line. So we're halfway there. Now it'll work the same way with the exit too. If you start speeding up, I guess, before that white line that I've got it set to, it'll actually black flag you for that too. We'll hopefully get enough laps in here to be able to test that as well. I only got it set at 20 laps, so glad it wasn't my caution this time anyway. Should get the one to go next time by here. Whoop. Little wrinkled his bumper there a little bit. Probably caved in my grill a little bit too. Did that one, that's another thing I want to check here. Did that one caution light get fixed in this corner? I just happen to remember that one being jacked up. Let's see what we got going on here. So this light right here, I believe, was kind of screwy. Yep, looks like that's been fixed.
Want to go right here. We'll be on the inside.
And we'll get to go on the inside. Cool. Yep, that light's been fixed. Cool. We get to go on the inside. So we're a lap down. At least a lap down.
1 minute 14.167.
Coming in, coming by, coming through.
Slow down, Junior. Got the defender on it.
Mark Martin's leading it. Yeah, you can see the Wingfoot 1 going around. It's pretty cool. I like that transition as far as like that gradual rotation there. It's not like a beeline. Checked all the lights. Good. Yeah, that's the only one I can remember that was off. Was in that turn 3-4. It's definitely been adjusted.
Man, I'll call the green.
Here we go.
Nice first shift. I'll walk in front of you. You can go get them. All right, man. Pace cars in. Get ready.
Check that restart again. Nice.
Bring it in.
Still in that zone.
Outside. Still there.
See you, Mark.
9.34.
Oh, God, he's still there.
Stay low there. Inside.
Oh, God.
Coming up. Still
Oh,
there.
God. Okay, I'll let him go. I don't want to bring the caution out. We got Tony and Mark going at it.
Clear. Inside. Still there. 20.
Man, these guys are racing me hard.
3. 8. 8.
I don't know if I'm going to be able to get into the pits. Alright, let's try. Here we go. Coming into the pits.
Outside. Clear.
What up, what up, what up? Okay, now I want to be speeding when I come past this line.
35.
Now we'll get down to speed. So I was going way over speed limit after that line. So now I'm down to pit road, but that's not going to matter because once I do my pit stop, it's going to tell me I came in too hot. Yes, it should. So I'll stay at pit road streets here. I was definitely going like 50 some miles an hour past that line. That's not the good. That's what we call hot pitting. Okay, we're halfway done.
4.394.
So I'm going to do my stop. Okay. Don't worry about the damage. So it should give me a black flag.
Okay, go, go, go. Pit road speed 35. Need to amend number 3000, second gear. Clear to the wall.
And it didn't. So
They're all clear. All
there
clear,
might be
go
some
hard.
adjustment we need to make to that. And it could be just a matter of moving that stall 42. And sometimes it won't line up 100%. Whoops, got a shift right. Let's try another pit stop here. I'm gonna blast it in here again.
Pit road speed 35. Need to amend number 3000, second gear.
Yeah. So I kind of slid it right through there. So what I'm trying to get it to, it's giving me the cue where it needs to be, so that's already half the battle. So I'm just keeping it at pit road speed here. So I definitely slid it through there.
Do not speed here. Number 3000, second gear. 1 minute 21.649.
And the only thing that we're trying to test here is that it's not getting down to speed by getting to the first pit stall by tradition. You want to get, once you get to that line, that physical line, that painted line there, that's where you need to be at pit road
Okay,
speed.
go, go, go. Pit road speed 35. Need to amend number 3000.
Okay, still no black flag. There it is.
Yeah, black flag.
See, that's the black flag, so that works that way.
Yes, we're too fast entering.
See, too fast entering. So that's working that way. So I slid it through there like that, and that's how that overlay works. Now there might be still a little bit of adjustment there. Try it one more time.
They need to get the fucking kind of they can fucking do it. It's fucking bullshit. 1000 is fucking 10. Concentrate on getting up that road here as hard as we can. One outside at your door.
Now we're going to come in again,
Go there.
clear this out. We want to make sure this
All
clears.
clear, all clear. Go hard. Go high. There you go. Go hard.
Almost had insult to injury there. This may not clear because I came in pretty hot. That's what we want to see, though. It's all about, you know, discipline, I guess, on the pit road. Don't abuse that. I'm gonna run on the laps here, but let's see if it'll. Hopefully, there's enough laps here for see if it'll clear. I'm trying to obey it at this point.
1 minute 30.
So this should only be a drive-through, not a stop.
6. Don't speed. Do not speed here. Remember, 3000, second gear. Clear to the wall. They're all clear. All clear.
Yeah, see, it
Go
didn't
hard.
clear. See,
Yeah, black flag.
yep.
Before here.
Just came in hot.
The hell happened now?
Came in hot.
Too fast entering.
Yep. So it gave me still keeping the black flag because I came in too hot.
Tachometer, we can't even get a
But
good
see, it is
fucking
at
read.
more at that yellow line and not the see, I ran on the laps. Okay.
You know, correctly gauge pit road speed.
That's the whole idea behind that overlay, though. See, if we didn't have that in there, it would actually only be gauging me coming in hot based on that first pit stall, which would be instead of this line, it would be at this line.
Pit road speed 35. Need to amend number 3000, second gear.
So for the most part, it's pretty much working like it's supposed to. There might be a little bit of adjustment. We might have to adjust that stall 42 in the pit lane 1. Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's over.
Checker flag right here.
That's still my same. That's still my same penalty or whatever that I had prior to this checkered.
Appreciate everybody's hard work, man. That's a good.
So that's not an additional black flag. That's just the one that I didn't get to clear. We ran out of laps. There we go. He's gonna still time me. All right, it's already over, dude. You're not paying attention. Anyway, we're gonna go ahead and restart. Okay, and then
Drivers, start your engines!
I want to test this one more time, at least this way. I actually want to get a chance to test in the exit as well. But like I said, for the most part, that overlay is working the way it should. For the most part. Especially with that cue. I guess for the spotter to come out, say you're on pit road. I think what I'll test on this run here is first, like, instead of the entrance, I'll do the exit. So I'll come in, as you need to, as far as to be down to pit speed at that line. And then as I come out there, I'll speed, I guess, as far as coming out prior to that line that we've got to find on the pit exit. See if it'll will black flag me.
Alright, man, pace cars in. Get ready.
Yeah, that's what I'll do.
Grind, grind, grind. Grind, grind, grind.
That restart zone is just solid. It's right in that zone. So yeah, the earliest or the latest green flag or whatever, it's actually right in that zone. You do one lap. Okay, now we'll try coming into pits. We're going to come in solid on the entrance. Make sure we're down the pit speed prior to the line. Oh god, hold on to it, hold on to it. Get down to pit speed. Okay.
Pit road speed 35.
We'll obey it until we exit. Good so far.
Don't speed, do not speed here.
I'm not.
3,000 second gear.
I'm not. Yeah, no, it's just peeling off that. It's like, and that's what the actual drivers deal with too, as far as just to not get it all squirrely, I guess, as far as coming into the pits.
5.3.
So what I'll do is I'll obey the pit speed, whatever, up until I exit. So what I want to do is put it in this view, and I'm gonna just gun it out of here. Get it. And there's not that much distance between where my stall is and that first. It'd probably be better to put it at that yellow line, not the white line.
Okay, go, go, go. Pit road speed 35. Eagle man number 3.
Yeah, there's not enough room there, I guess, for it to. So it'd probably be better to put it at that, because
All clear, go hard.
now if you're further back, it might you could get a more of a run. Being at that first stall there, that's yeah. All right, so let's do this. I got a better idea to test that. Since I'm at the first stall there, I obviously have that. That needs to go to that yellow line on exit, not the white line. The white line's kind of like your preliminary. So come in, get it down to pit speed.
Pit road speed 35.
Perfect.
Eagle man number 3,000 second gear.
And what I'll do is I won't make a stop. I'm just gonna gun it, I guess, before I get to the end of the pit road. So that'll be above the pit speed prior to getting to that white line on the exit. And that should give me a black flag.
One minute 32.
There's not a lot of room there, so we'll
4.
have to time this just right. So let's say I want to start speeding up right here.
Don't speed, do not speed here.
Black flag.
3,000 second gear.
Boom.
Yeah, black flag, 64 in.
That's one good test.
What the hell happened now? Yes, we're too fast. Enter.
Now I'll do it. Ah, crap. A little bit deeper. Gosh dang it, idiot. What the heck?
Tachometer, we can't even get a good fucking read. What the fuck do they expect?
Slick spot.
If they want to, correctly gauge pit road speed, they need to get the fucking kind of...
Let's come in and get her black flag cleared.
Fucking bullshit. 1,000 and fucking 10. Just concentrate on getting out pit road here as hard as you can.
Love my spot at that.
They're all clear, go hard.
Alright, we're going to coming in. This should be just a drive-through. Get down to speed.
Pit road speed 35. Eagle man number
We don't want to add
3,000
insult to injury at this point. Okay, so we're going to have it clear the flag. We're going to make sure it clears. But I think once the that line, as far as where you can start speeding, is at the the proper line, that yellow line, that'll make more sense. But yeah, that should clear. There we go. So that's a good test.
Clear to the wall.
Now we're gonna come back into the
All
pits.
clear, go hard.
Come back out. We're gonna come right back in, And I'm going to go a little bit deeper towards the end. So I kind of did it a little further back than that last time. That clearly brought out the black flag, as it should.
Outside, one outside at your door. Clear high.
Get it down to pit speed.
Pit road speed 35.
There we go.
Need to amend that for 3,000 second gear.
It's not that hard to do when you really think about it. I don't know why drivers tend to always push that envelope, I guess, as far as the just hot, you know, the hot pit. If you're following the lines, you know, as far as the protocols goes for that, it's pretty simple. Some drivers just like to push that envelope anyway. So I did it a little bit further back on that last one here, as far as when I got the black flag, and that's to be expected. But I was just trying to get a running start. I think once that I was trying to compensate for where that line should actually be. What's at the yellow? So right there. Yep. See? That's pretty sensitive. That's a pretty sensitive one right there. So like, yeah, if you try to gun it too far close to that end of that pit road, it's gonna get you. That's almost perfect in my opinion. That's what you want. You want to be able to get nailed. Don't push that envelope. It's gonna get you. Yeah, so that's what I would consider to be a pretty sensitive one, and that's a pretty good one. That's the way this is set up here. You kind of want to have that because that's kind of a challenge. It's like, oh crap, I better watch myself. It's just like, don't speed because it will nail you. So granted, that is a little bit sooner than it should, you know, because it should be at that yellow line. Just still keeping that in mind, but that's still pretty solid. So all we got to do is a drive-through. Just making sure it's going to clear.
1 minute 16.4.
That's all I'm testing here at this point, is just make sure it clears if we follow the pit road speed. Staying under it, or at least at it. And it should clear.
Clear to the wall. They're all clear. All clear. Go hard.
Did not clear. Alright, what'd I do?
What the hell happened now? I guess we're too fast entering.
Was I? Alright, we'll try it again. I didn't think I was, but all it takes is like a mile an hour or two. It doesn't, and I could have very well been. Let's try it again. We'll do it again. I wasn't really paying attention as far as I was pretty sure I was, but I might have even been a mile an hour over. We'll make sure this time. We'll just make sure we are this time. So this time I know I was, so it should clear. Stay well below it. I mean, again, this is what I would consider pretty sensitive, you know, as far as that overlay. You can adjust that, I guess, as far as to be less sensitive, for example. We got one lap. Crap. So it probably is not going to clear it. We'll see if it does. Ran out of laps. But yeah, you got to really be down to pit speed within that zone now. If you're not, it's going to get you. Yeah, I won't do it because it's a checkered flag. Okay. Anyway, that should have been clear. I might do it one more time. I just want to be sure. Just to kind of see where, yeah, it's still got the penalties. That's dug it anyway.
Yeah, we got to get a little bit better. 10-4, man.
I mean, the race is over. It doesn't matter, but still.
Appreciate everybody working hard.
You should have cleared that.
Keep working. You've done a good job. Appreciate you working that hard there, Ian.
Should have cleared that. What the heck is going on here? What you folks doing? Yeah, I almost want to kind of test this one more time. Let's do it again. Let's do a restart. That should have cleared it that last time there. Let's see.
Drivers, start your engines!
Alright, here we go. Stream down? Not on my end. Hold on a second. Not on my end. Let's see. Let me double check here. Oh, he's talking about Steam. Oh, I don't know. Is it? I don't think I'm currently logged into that. You're just talking about Steam, not Stream. I don't know. I don't usually run that, I guess, while I'm streaming, so it tends to use up a lot of resources there. So I'm not sure. Oh, I guess my playlist ran out. I'll leave that off for now. We'll do some testing here. Yeah, maybe you confirm their torch. Crap. Gosh darn it. These guys are waiting for me to get going. Yeah, I mean, worried there for a second there. I was like, I don't know, because I know I've been having problems on occasion, I guess, with the stream. Alright, here we go. Get a good lap in here, and we're going to test this out. Oh, you know what? Another thing I didn't do. I didn't even realize that. I need to get this one going here. Y'all supposed to keep me honest here. Let's see. Yeah, let's do that. There we go. Cool. I forgot to bring that up. I'm gonna go with this view for a time being.
I'll walk in front of you. Go get them. All right, man. Pace cars in. Get ready. Bring again. Bring again.
Kind of spun the tires there a little bit. I'll do one lap, and I'll try to come in solid on the pit stall, and then I want to basically retest the exit there. Pretty confident in the pit entry. It doesn't nail you, I guess, for coming in too hot. Alright, here we go.
Pit road speed 35.
Alright. Should have been good. We'll check it this way to make sure. Yeah, so we're getting a chance, I guess, to check out everything that's been done to the track. Besides just testing out this pitting protocol. I'm not even going to stop. I'm just going to go straight through. I want to see if it gives me a black flag for coming in too hot. For starters here. So I think I might have. Pretty sure it did. Nope. Okay, cool.
They're all clear, go hard.
Yep, I did come in solid there. Okay, go around one more time. Come in nice and solid, I guess, in the pit entrance.
There you go, go hard.
Taking another stop.
Leader's coming up.
Oh, I know. Make sure we're down to pit speed right there. Okay.
Pit road speed 35.
Perfect.
Eagle man number 3000 seconds.
That time I know it was. I'm just reassuring myself. Make sure we don't speed. Now I'm going to try and see if I can get an advantage. That's like what a lot of drivers try to do. It's like they try to speed up prior to getting to the actual, like the pit road. You know, as far as that for that last stall.
1 minute 8.74.
Should get a black flag here. Let's check it out here. So let's go right about now.
Don't speed, do not.
Boom! There's a black flag. See, that's perfect. Perfect like that. Do not speed until you get completely clear of pit road. That, in my opinion, is perfect. Now we're just going to see if we can get this cleared.
If they want to, you know, correctly gauge pit road speed, they need to get the fucking kind of they can fucking do it. It's fucking bullshit. 1,000 and fucking 10. Just concentrating on getting up pit road here as hard as you can there.
Steam did load. Cool.
They're all clear, go hard.
Alright, let's get this.
There you go hard. Leader's coming up.
Alright. So we want to get this cleared legitimately. So far, both ends are running pretty good. Now, they probably do need adjustment, I guess, as far as they put on that yellow line and so on, but you kind of get the point as far as how that works, as far as that overlay. Now, it should clear here as long as I abide by the pit rule.
1 minute 15.
Don't speed anywhere in that zone.
1 0.
So in this case, once I pass this white line, it should tell me I'm black. There we go. So there we go. Sweet.
Clear to the wall.
Perfect.
They're all clear.
So I just want to make sure
go
it would
hard.
clear. So on both ends there, it actually works pretty good. So whether or not it's actually where it needs to be, that would still have to be checked. But it at least gives you somewhat of an idea of how that works. Alrighty then. So what I want to test now, I'm going to get out of this, and I'm going to actually adjust some of those pit stalls. And check out some of these pit stalls, I guess, that have been adjusted. Check, like, do the ones that are in the corner, as far as towards pit entrance and so on. Yeah, got a lot of practice, that's for sure, especially on the pits. You can send me the info in the text file. No, I'm going to leave that up to you whether or not, as far as how to do that. But that's why I'm kind of showing what the general idea is behind applying it is all. So let's, what we need to do now, I'm going to restart this for a second. And go into our track INI. And I'm still editing that same one. Yeah, so this is kind of like my makeshift one here. I still have the one that you got there without the pit lane one, at least anywhere torch. So what we want to do is in pit lane 1, I want to just, so we said stall 9, so I want to swap those two. I want to see where that one lands. We'll check that out. So we'll just put stall 9 here. I'm going to do this all in testing. Okay, you could probably test this in race weekend as well, but as long as you're swapping that, you don't have the same numbers, I guess, in there. It's just going to put your car, I guess, in that stall. So I want to test that one for starters, and then I want to test another one that's towards the beginning here, as far as where it's got the curve. Alright, so we'll save this one. I'll leave that open just so I can adjust that again. So let's go back into the sim. So far the track is loaded just perfectly fine as far as with the new DAT, based on all the new information. So that's good. Yeah, definitely have the video for. That's the whole point, I guess, in going over that. Now we had a little bit of commentary, I guess, as far as with Justis came in there. That was some pretty good information, insight on that. It's kind of a little bit off topic, but still somewhat on the same. You know, as far as the parallels that still exist with Enter 2003 and iRacing, for example. Yeah, we're gonna go into testing mode here. So what that should do is should put me in that stall 10. That'd be the 10th stall from the very first one. So instead of in the very first stall at the pit exit, I should be either before or after where that victory lane opening is. That's what I want to see. So let's go load this up. And there we are. So this, like you had said, you had mentioned there, Torch, that is not a stall. So it puts me on the other side of that. So this would have been stall 9 on the other side. Now, keeping in mind we're starting with stall 0, so this would be stall 9 or stall 8 in the INI. I adjusted my spawn into here on stall 9 in the INI, which is actually stall 10. So this would actually be the 10th stall. So I just wanted to check that one there. I want to look at, so the way you can test this to see your positioning of your pit crew and all that stuff, back up a little bit and go over the wall. See where the tires land and all that good stuff. Looks good there. Solid. that's at least checking one of the straight pit stalls anyway. There we go.
Okay, go, go, go.
Just like that. You can test that out. Now what I want to do is get out of here again. I want to check out one of the ones that are at pit entrance there. So let's get out of this and we'll adjust that. You always have to get out and restart the sim. You can't make it while the game is still running. That's probably a good fair mention there. Alright, so what we want to do here is let's put it on. I don't want to get the very last stall. Let's try like stall 39. So we want to go change this to 0. Alright, we also want to make sure we put 9 back. So put the 9 back. Change this to 0. I'm just going to put it all back for now. This is going to actually be 42. Or what did I change it to? This was 39. So put 39 at this spot. As long as you're completely swapping. So 39's there, 0's there. Put 9 back. So we're good to go. Save it. And again, so depending on, especially if you're trying this out in race mode or testing mode, is going to make a difference. So the fact that I'm doing it in testing mode, it won't really matter if I have duplicates of the same number in there, because it's just the only thing we're concerned with is where my car, as far as the player car, spawns. But it definitely will make a difference if you have 2 the same stall and the same, 2 stall numbers, I guess, on 2 different locations that are the same. That's going to create a problem in race weekend mode. That's going to be pretty obvious. Alright, so testing mode. So this should put me towards the pit entrance there, and that's more of a curved pit. So I want to see how those look there, just to kind of humor myself, because I kind of like to consider, as far as like if I was to qualify in that position, what's my orientation, I guess, in that pit stall. And here we are. So we're in that stall. Let's back it up here. So all we gotta do is back it up. Get them to reset there. See how they look there. So they're getting on the wall. Cool. Looks good there. Looks pretty good there. Pretty solid. Not too bad. I mean, there's only so much you can do, I guess, with curves pit stall. You'll probably get some of the crew members will kind of clip their legs and whatever into it, just like that. I'm noticing that you can kind of see. Can't really pan it over there. See that dude standing there in the back? There's not much you can do about that. I mean, you can sit there and and kind of tweak it all day long. You're not gonna get 100% perfect. I think the key is making sure that the tires get over the, they're stepping onto the wall, number one, and then the tires actually end up on the proper side of the wall. That's the 2 main things I guess I'd look at as far as setting up pit stalls anyway, regardless if it's curved or a straight pit. But those look pretty cool, pretty solid. We can actually look at it from this angle here too. Let's back this up a little bit. We'll check it from this couple angles here too. But definitely from that view right in the pit stall look pretty good. Let's go like this. It's got a bad angle there. Let's try. Let's go like this. Check it out. Coming in the pit stall. Yep, they're stepping on the wall. That's pretty cool. That tire's over. Let's see how that guy, when he put the tire at the wall, he kind of clipped his legs into there. Can't really do much about that. There's only so much we can do, I guess, about the animated pit crews, I guess, and clipping into the wall and such. But for the most part, yeah, see how that guy right there is kind of clipping into that? I mean, you could probably tweak that a little bit more as far as change of rotations. That's really minor. Minor. So the fact that the tires themselves, even as it's laying on the ground, isn't clipping into the wall, I think that's more of the key thing there. So anyway, we're good to go on that. Solid. I just want to check both the straight pit as well as the curved pit. Looking good to me, man. Alright, so the other thing I wanted to go over, and I kind of touched on that a little bit, as far as like how you can adjust the AI to follow the same rules as the player car, I guess, as far as the pitting protocols, as far as the overlay. Let me open up the track here again. Oh, the pit LP, that was the other thing. Yeah, I'll check that one. That'll be one of the last things I checked there. That pit LP. Yep, we saw that from last week as far as how it was kind of crowded there. between the min and the max pit LP. I will check that out next year. Just once I go over this this area with how you can get the AI to. Okay, so what you want to do, it's probably not a bad idea to do this anyway, regardless of just trying to get the AI to comply with it as well. If you're going to take full advantage of this overlay, not only the apron near pits to get that cue, but to also take get into the right mode here. So to extend out, yeah, so you got enough room right here to be able to put your pit stall, and you might have to put another F section in here, but that's not too bad. That's not too terrible. So what you could do in this section, yep, you got right there, you got F section and a W section here. Is that a W or is that a, let me zoom in. Let me go back to a second here. What kind of section is that? That's a W section. Okay, so no worries. So as long as you got somewhere for that to stop and it's not going to continue, and just define that area a little bit more. So let's go like this. So we go to here. We're going to define this as pit road. All right. Go into my properties. Come on. Freaking mouse anyway. All right, unlock these. So instead of on this part, we want to actually define this as pit road, like so. Okay, and we still got plenty enough room from where we pass this line for that cue to come in here. So we could even probably go one more segment if we wanted to. The only thing is you probably have to add a F section here to stop that. That might not be too bad, actually. As long as it's not bleeding too far, that might be not too bad. So what I'll do, we'll apply pit road to this as well. This is pretty decent. So we'll go pit stall, or pit road on this one as well. There we go. And we still got plenty of room here, like I said, as far as for that. As long as it's no, again, considering the length of your car, as far as the 6 meters, as long as you got enough room, just like your lead segment, to accommodate that car being in that zone, you're fine. So that's probably good enough right there, I guess, for the AI to respond, I guess, to that. It's like, oh, crap, I'm on pit road. I better be on pit speed. So the other thing you could do, in conjunction with where the pit stall is to actually add another F section here. You could go that far and actually make that all pit stall along this edge. So in this segment here, for example, you can go like this. So it's going to be as racing surface here to start, but I'm going to change it. Gotta make sure these are tied. Okay. And extend it out. Gosh darn it. There we go. Get to the end of this. Alright, and I already got an F section here, it looks like, so I can clearly stop that one here. So what I'll do, I don't have the texture applied to it yet, but that's okay. I just want to show how you would apply the pit stall. So right now it's on racing surface. And go forward. There we go. So now what will happen is the AI will actually sense this. So when they come in the pits, they're actually going to be at pit speed before the actual start of the pit road. So it's not going to be the same. So you can go so far all the way back to this line if you wanted to, through here as far as where the pit stall is, just so the AI will sense that, because they don't follow the same rules as the player car when it comes to this apron near pits and all that. They're only looking at D-longs, D-lats, as well as where that first pit stall is. That's the normal behavior of the simulation, as far as especially with the AI. So it's just keeping in mind that the AI and the player car have the different rules when it comes to pitting. As we could see, we tested that out there. They weren't actually getting down to pit road speed until that very first pit stall on pit road, for example. And then they were speeding back up once they get past that stall 0 on exit. And they shouldn't be doing that. You would do the same thing on the pit exit, as far as just fully extend that out. So in this case, it would probably have to go all the way to this yellow line, as far as where the pit road is and such. In fact, you could probably go to the white line for that, and then just keep this area near apron near pits right in this. Let's see what we got here. You may only need, well, in this case, you only even go that far, unfortunately. But I would not consider, I guess, as far as to split this track up to accommodate that. That's not necessary. That would at least make them comply a little bit more. They wouldn't start speeding up, for example. The AI wouldn't start speeding up until they got past this segment, for example. So instead of speeding up right after they clear this, they wouldn't start speeding up until they get to here, which is a lot closer than... But as far as the player car is concerned, this is perfectly fine, as I've already tested. Yeah, so I want to make abundantly clear. I would not suggest to split this up so you can get those proper segments in there so the AI respond to it better. That would be totally unnecessary in my opinion. But just so that they kind of comply, I guess, a little bit closer, I guess, to... that could be considered, I guess, somewhat of a limitation, I guess, as far as applying that overlay anyway. Oh, you risked and you lost 74 units. I was like, what are you saying damn for? Yeah, that kind of hurts. That's what happens when you gamble. So, yeah. So what I could do here, I'd want to keep apron near pits in this zone, and I would just go insert F section here. And I didn't apply the texture. I'm just trying to show you what property would have to be applied to that is all. Oh, there you go. James says that's how you do it. Whoops, crap. See, there's no one doing this doggone thing. I hate that. Yeah, so you can kind of screw that up a little bit if you're not careful, but I'm doing this kind of fast, so. Okay, so what I can do here is I can label this as pit road. And this will actually kind of help in a way as far as the player car protocols, as far as to extend that out even further than the actual pit road. I mean, we already saw it works just fine, but it actually helps a little bit to do that. So not only does it fix the AI issue, but it also helps the player scenario, because the game will necessarily say, ooh, okay, still on pit road, and you got plenty of window here. I guess, okay, I guess he's off pit road now, so he will be able to, once you get past this line anyway. So I can set this one up as pit road, and that's just an extension of the actual active pit road. So let's go here, pit road, and then make this one here pit stall. That one's probably a critical thing to mention, because again, as I said, what the simulation reads as far as the AI is concerned, they're looking to see where does this zone end. So once they get past this line, you know, as far as where the pit stall is, that's what they say, oh, okay, I can speed up now. That's how they read that. Now, the fact that this segment is a little bit bigger, you know, it's in order to get it to this point, as far as the AI is concerned anyway, there's no way, I guess, they're just going to start speeding up here. There's no way to really remedy that, unfortunately. You could probably try, it's probably not going to do much. You could probably put an F section in here and put another pit stall in here. They may necessarily obey that, but you would have to leave some of this out here, I guess, as apron near pits, because otherwise, as far as your player car, it's not going to give you that cue, I guess, as far as your clear pit road once you pass this line. So you want to be careful with that. But you definitely want to make sure in applying this extension here that you don't want to go too far past this line, because you'll get the cue late in some cases, especially if you try to do what I just explained with the AI. Try to balance out the AI in that. I tend to focus more on just the player car more than the AI, to be honest. And that's just using the experience, I guess, I have from building the league tracks. It's more beneficial, I guess, to pay attention to what's happening to the player car other than the AI. Why not just make the AI wait longer to go than real player? I mean, you could do that, but again, what you would have to do is you'd have to put the pit road, I guess, past this, right? And you wouldn't want to do that. That's definitely going to really screw up, I guess, the player car. So, like, for example, if you made this pit road and pit stall so that the AI would be more compliant to wait longer, that's going to totally screw up how the player car Because once you hit this line and you say you're clear pit road, you're going to be speeding up and it's be like, oh, you're still on pit road. So as far as the game is concerned, you're still on pit road, even though it told you cleared at this point. So you're going to get a definite black flag in that regard. So in an effort to try to balance out what the AI does and compare it to what the player does, that's not going to be a good result. mean your face race with AI? I mean, I'm just trying to explain as far as how that would work if you wanted to get the AI, I guess, to do what you were suggesting. And in an effort to try to do that, you would have to do just what I said, and that wouldn't work well for the player card. Is all. So there's pros and cons, I guess, to applying the overlay. But I think for the most part, if it's just player card, if you're focusing mostly on that, I think it's just what I demonstrated and showed the example in there. I think it's a good thing, I guess, to apply in there, because it really will nail you, I guess, for hot pitting. Either on exit or even entrance. So hopefully that's we'll leave that as it is there. That gives you somewhat of something to chew on, I guess, a little bit to see if what's all right. So what the other thing we want to test out here, and I think that's probably where close this thing up here. We want to check out that pit lane 0. So that's been adjusted in the sim. We haven't checked that out yet. Close this right out. We're not going to save this. I will make sure I put all the appropriate files back, as far as put that all back to it. So all those edits that I made to the INI and the PTF, I'll leave that up to you, Torch, I guess, as far as to apply how you see fit, since it is your build. So far, with just those minor tweaks to some things, as far as still with the seams and all that stuff on the safer and stuff like that. I mean, it's you had mentioned you wanted to make some changes, I guess, to the shading on the trees, as far as on the casino building and stuff like that. I'll leave that up to you as well. Let's go back into the sim here, and we're going to load up the reflap utility. Alright. I guess gotta give it a second here. My monitor's not quite it's a good thing, I guess, we didn't have any drop frames here. Stream didn't crap out or anything. That's been always a big concern to me. Alright, so we're going to go into testing mode to get the reflap utility going. Always 100%. Right, and that's what I think too there, Torch. So in testing mode, we get this loaded up. Alright. And I didn't change that pit stall, that's fine. I'm not worried about that. So you can do this from any pit stall, it doesn't matter. So like if you're testing pits or whatever, in order to get the reflap utility on there, a little bit of review. It's a lot of buttons here, so it's control, left alt, left shift, and that key either above your tab or next to your 1 key on your keyboard. That brings up the reflap utility. So we're going to turn this off. You can see that dialog, and it's right up there at the top right of the top left of the screen. It's pretty small and understandable, but it gives you some information as far as what's going on. So, well, all we want to do is just check the. So we just want to toggle on all the pit stuff on there. So it should be, if my memory serves me right, it's control 7, 8, and 9, I think. But then in order to get, nope, I can see the panic lines. So is it 0, 1, 2? I think it's 3, 4, and 5. Now I think of it. 3, 4, and 5. There we go. So there's all our pit lines. So we can actually take a look at these now. Yeah, so 0, 1, and 2 are your min. Yeah, so I'm just going by memory. 0, 1, and 2 should be your min race and your max race, and then your 0, 1, 2, and then 3, 4, and 5, as I just brought up here, is your pit lines. And I'm just going completely by memory. We got the cheat sheet there on the video, I guess, as far as it shows that. But let's take a look at these. As we remember from last time, they were kind of crowded, kind of crossing each other. That's not a good idea, especially for AI. So yeah, we're getting them all nice and spaced out here now. So we got our max line that's on the left, pit line that's in the middle, and our min line that's on the very outside. My pit guys are like, what the frick are you doing, man? It's okay, man. We're just testing. So I got the panic lines on there, but that's okay. I turn those on. Didn't mean to do that, but yeah, we just check these pit lines out there. So again, as we remember, both the pit line and the min line were kind of crowded with each other. So now this has been nice and evenly spaced out here now. Pretty easy fix there. We didn't really see any terrible things happening, I guess, during the race there when we tested it. So that's good. Let's check it all the way around here, though. Yeah, so I did turn on the panic lines here. That's why you got the purple ones there. So you don't necessarily, unless you're going to stash lines, you don't need to turn on the working reflap line. Which, if I remember right, that's the control 0. So you're going to get a little bit of crossing over, I guess, here with that. That's about the only thing you can do there. You want your panic lines to be to the far extremes, I guess, to the inside and the outside boundary of the track. As far as the racing surface, anyway. So yeah, you can get some crossover of that. That's not a big deal. So I'm just looking at just the pit lines. So far, this looks pretty good. Even for the pace car, too. Because the pace car uses those lines, too. So yeah, that looks pretty good. Pretty simple look, I guess, as far as how we've done that. From what we remember, what we saw last time we looked at the track, anyway. So, don't really need to close it out, but I always make initiative, especially if I'm stashing. If I've done a stashing session of LPs, I always make sure to make a habit of getting out of it, and you go just the exact opposite. To get out of the reflap, just punch in all the same keys, and it shuts it off. So that's a toggle. You have to go, oh, it's all those keys. There's a lot of keys, but I think they've done it on purpose, intentionally, so it's like you're not hitting like a macro of keys, I guess, inadvertently and whatever, turning on your reflap. I think they've done that by design, all the way back when the simulation was designed. That's probably a good thing when you think about it. It's a lot of keys, but you don't have to worry about setting up certain keys or whatever that will step on some of your other functions in the sim. So that's just a fair mention on that. So that's pretty much all I have to show, I guess, for that. I think that was a lot of information, I guess, to go over, to include, I guess, with the overlay, as far as the pit road overlay, and all the new updates too. Here, we can kind of do a little bit of a summary here of what we did here. So we got some new trees, we got some new shadowing. Pretty good job on that, I'll be honest. I did do some backups here, as far as like that. I kind of showed those off. Lots of new items with the track mat here. Yep, these are the backups. Track mat stuff here. A lot of new stuff here as far as shading and stuff. Some items are brand new. Some of them are actually just a replacement of what was already in there. But yeah, lots of new things. That's the first time we've had anything touched with the track mat up till now. So it's like still a pretty solid effort in that. I think there's maybe a little, just a couple of adjustments can be made to some of the seams and some spots, especially on some of those darker track logos, as I mentioned. But other than that, even on the backside, to follow that same contour of the seam, I guess, on the backside of the wall too, because you can see a lot of that stuff, especially if you're considering, I guess, to put a camera. Speaking of cameras, there, if you did want to have that camera file, make sure I'll get that to you. It's just a small file. If you want to use those or just on those, if you so choose. If Racer James is still in here too, I need to get with Racer James at some point to see where he's at, I guess, with the redesign, I guess, of that camera jig. Because I know some of the things that he was showing there, I thought that was a pretty cool idea to have that azimuth in there of sorts, I guess, as far as to get the radians translated, I guess, from the degrees. That'd be a huge improvement, I guess, on the camera jig that we're currently using. So, yeah, at some point here, Racer James, yeah, there he is. If you happen to get a little bit of time, maybe jump on into Discord or something like that, so we can kind of, or just send me what you got, or send me or Torch, I guess, what you got on that, and be able to try that out and see what other tweaks you can make to that thing. And I think that would definitely be an improvement. I tried to do something of my own similar to the camera jig that I've got, but I kind of like what you got, to be honest. Okay. If there's nothing more, I guess, going on here, I guess, with that, I think that's pretty much, I'll call it good to go. I need to get some food. Figure out the height issue. Which was the height issue, anyway? You talking about with the object itself, or just the placement of it as far as like getting that? I'm happy with the shadow work on the yeah, that in the care center. I don't know if you caught that there, Mr. James. I know that I already went over it. I can kind of go over it again really quick here. The way you did the shadow, that's pretty cool. So it's a combination of TSD on the ground as well as put the shadow of that tree that's next to the care center on that. It's pretty cool. I'm actually going to bring that up here again real quick. See, so the object doesn't match where the camera height ends up. Okay. So that may just be a matter of where the pivot needs to go, as far as either higher or lower, possibly. Just thinking out loud, I suppose. Were you able to use... Because I did get you the camera jig that I had, right? I don't remember if I did send that to you or not. Yeah, it could be just as simple as that, as putting the pivot, you know, where that is height-wise, either further down or up. How far are we off? Are we talking like a sizable amount, or... I'm just going to show this off here really quick, because I don't know if Racer James or anybody else coming in the stream here didn't necessarily catch it. This is what Torch was talking about, I guess, as far as the shadow. This is a really good pairing up of... Now, I would assume... This is not even ambient occlusion. This is what blows my mind. So the fact that he's just taken the image, you know, as far as what he's got for the mapping, you know, the texture for this tree, and made a shadow out of it, and actually applied it to the building. Now, if we remember how that looked without having a shadow on the wall, it just made it didn't look natural. This looks a lot more natural. I guess just something as simple as a shadow of a tree onto a building. So that's what he was talking about. I want to say 6 to 10 meters. Pretty major height difference. Okay. Yeah, that's something that would definitely need to be considered, I guess, for take a look at as far as like what would need to be adjusted on that. But that's pretty much where I'll leave it right there. I mean, that kind of shows, tells the tale, I guess, as far as like that. Just something as simple as applying that there. That's what I would assume what you did anyway, Torch. As far as like to take the texture from the actual tree object itself and actually made the shadow out of it and be able to apply that in a flat reference, I guess, to the care center. I mean, it's just something as simple as that. If you've got those types of things available to you at your disposal, use that to your ability. Yep. Fantastic. And you'll be able to do much the same thing with the other shadows on the other trees, I guess, over at the casino. Same idea there. I kind of took a look at the textures for that. So you would be able to do the same thing. So these are newer trees. So you'll be able to do the same thing on the casino wall here. You already got it on the ground. You just have to apply it to the building texture. So I would expect that would be one of the next things we'll be able to apply to this. So moving right along with this thing here. I mean, the track already as it is, it's already solid. I mean, it's we've been able to run several events on here and test it in many different aspects and not really have any issues. And everything we seem to throw at it, it just seems to improve it even better. I mean, it's just... Can't speak volumes. I mean, the track has just got oodles and oodles and tons. It just oozes freaking detail. It's just amazing. So, yeah, again, with all that being said, I'm just going to kind of look around here and see if we've got a potential raid target here. I'm going to, once I do find a raid target here, I'll go ahead and send you all over, and we'll switch on over to the raid scene here. Let's see here. What options do we have here? Just give me a second. Oh, I got an idea. We got our good buddy Cosmin, Splash and Go Live. He's one of our OG creators, I guess, for Enter 2003 as well. Much around in the same realm as ourselves. He's currently doing some iRacing. He's doing some grinding over in the iRacing over there. We're gonna go send him some. I'm gonna send you all over to that way. Let's go over and say hello to Cosmin. I'll copy this link over. I'll set this raid up. Let's go ahead and switch this on over to the raid scene. Whoops. I want to thank everybody that did drop on in. The likes of Justice was in here. We had Steelcrafter came in and saw what we had going on here. Can't thank y'all enough, I guess, for checking out what we got in here for Spline Design Studios Saturday. I hope you enjoyed what you had, and you will continue, I guess, to come on back. Kind of a relatively quiet evening, but that's quite all right. Alright, so let's go ahead and copy this, get this raid set up here. I know sometimes the raids don't necessarily go through the way they should. No problem, Torch. It's been a pleasure, I guess, to be able to do that, especially with the, you know, listening to what either myself or James or whatever has to say and actually, you know, applying it. It's actually proving positive, I guess, as far as the reason for doing that. It's like we've got just using that knowledge that we have. Alright, so I'm going to put that in there. Let's get this raid. Come on, raid. Twitch. I was hoping to maybe get that in there before that next song started, but that's okay. Let's go. He changed his... There it goes. Alright, starting the raid. Here we go. Again, thank you all very much for stopping by. And I hope you have a fantastic rest of your weekend. I'll be streaming no later than Wednesday for Wreckfest Wednesday. And if we don't see you before then, I'm hoping to see you again on any other streams. I got it on Fridays and Saturdays for Spline Design Studios Saturday. I bid you all adieu, and I will see you again real soon. Bye for now.